lane.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off. That was Snetteron. He's gone off. He's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin! Oh no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lallum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lallum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lallum takes it.
A beautiful overlook outside in Hall County, Georgia, USA. That's right, folks. We're out at Road Atlanta today in the TCR class. Welcome back to Season 5, AMX 5. Today, we had a quick break last week, but we are back, and I know these drivers are fueled, ready to get back out there in these TCR classes. I am Kevin, and joining me alongside is Damon. Damon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. A bit tired today. It's been a busy night, but I've got my coffee, which means I'm pretty much locked in and loaded and ready to go for tonight's races.
Awesome. So we got the caffeine at the ready. We got the drivers. They got in some practice just a while ago. I was looking at some of their timing. But before we get into today's qualifying session, we have a few things. Like I said, always make sure to follow us on our social medias. We're on TikTok, Twitter, now X, YouTube, Twitch live every single weekend. So we have it popping up on the screen. Make sure to follow us for all the best replays, highlights, and more to come, as well as head over to the website for the full schedule, and also if you want to get out in these races out here with us. But like I said, we have a few things to go over. We are just past the halfway mark out here. We started back May 25th, and we're going all the way through August 18th. This season's prize pool, we have $15,000 plus next level racing gear. The race goes as follows. We have a 20-minute qualifier, followed by a top 15 reverse grid going into heat number 1 of 20 minutes, followed by another top 15 reverse grid, and finally that second 20-minute heat. For all of our drivers out there, driver cams are required. You can get the link via our AMX Discord or on the website. Payouts are done in balances over $100 paid out every single month. So once you hit that $100 threshold, expect some money to head your way. We're here every single Saturday and Sunday each week. And like we said, we just had a break last week, but we're going to be here every single weekend until the end of this season. You can sign up or get more information over at amxrace.com. Our schedule, like I mentioned, every single weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, starting at 5:50 p.m. GMT, followed by another race shortly after at 7:20 p.m. And every other week, we have Assetto Corsa Competizione races, as well as AMX 0 at 5:50 p.m. on the off weeks, and AMX 20 at 7 p.m. So make sure to check the full schedule every other week and see what we got going on Sundays. The current prize pool for AMX 5 iRacing goes as following. We get a $15 prize in qualifying, followed by second for $10 in second place, third, $9, all the way down to 15th place. And the same goes for heat number 1 and 2, with the fastest lap being set in each heat getting an extra $2. If you want to join in on these races, there is a minimum road I rating of 2,000 with a total prize pool each race of $250. So if you want to get yourself some of that sweet, sweet prize money, make sure to head over and get in there. So like I mentioned, we're about halfway through. This is our current AMX 5 top 10. Coming in, I'll round it out, starting in the 10th place position, Victor Miranda. In 9th place, Simon Seminara. 8th place, Evandro Dantes. 7th, we have Toby Soriano. In 6th, Dino Filippa. 5th place, Gaston Kulavi. 4th, we got Pedro Dean. 3rd place, Bruno De Carmo. 2nd, Jackson Asenje. And all the way up at the top, your current points leader, Gael Valero, who's been dominating so far. He's been up atop that leaderboard, but we'll see. Like I said, we're only halfway through this, folks. Who is going to give him a run for his money and try to knock him off that top spot? So, of course, we mentioned earlier, thanks to Next Level Racing, we do have some amazing prizes going out there. So we got the GT Elite Wheel Plate Edition, one of the best sim rigs, as well as you got to have a comfortable seat to go along with that. They're giving away the ERS3 reclining seat. So like I said, of course, everyone wants that cash money prize going their way, but it's always nice to have one of the best sim rigs in the business to go along with it. So, like I said, that's a little bit about what we got going on this season, but now we're going to head it over to what's going on today.
All right, thank you very much, Kevin. And yes, today we are on Road Atlanta, also known as the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for sponsorship reasons. Based in Hall County, Georgia, the US, of course. Founded in 1970 and opened very quickly after that. Very, very well-known American track here. It's also very fast, a lot of elevation changes. So we're going to see some pretty intense bumper-to-bumper action, as we always do here at AMX Season 5. And speaking of the cars that we will be taking on track this time around, it is, of course, you all know and love it, the TCR Class cars. These are front-wheel drive behemoths of machines. 350 to 350 horsepower going directly to the front wheels. Weighed around 1,200 to 1,500 kilos with a sequential 6-speed gearbox. There's not really much to say about these cars that you haven't already known about, these cars in particular. But we are going to be seeing some variation in the cars on track today. So it'll definitely be a sight to see. But enough about the cars, enough about the tracks. What you want to see is the racing. So Kevin, take it back away to qualifying.
Yes, absolutely. So, like I said, we're out here in qualifying today, Road Atlanta, home of the Petit Le Mans. But we have a few people, like we said, a lot of familiar faces out here today. Quarantine Guinez, Ralph Benitez, Evandro Dantas, Ayrton Ruitman, a lot of these guys out here. We've seen so far this season some of these guys that really specialize in these TCR cars, that of the likes of Kieran Harrison as well as Quarantine Guinez. Looks like so far Kieran Harrison isn't out here in this race today, so we'll have to see if he shows up. Like we said, we're not even halfway through qualifying, so there's still plenty of time for a few more drivers to be able to trickle in and get in here. But like I said, Quarantine Guinez, one of the best TCR drivers, currently looks like he is sitting on top so far in here, as we are aboard right now the number 5 of Peter Zuba. So Peter Zuba, another amazing driver that we've seen all last season long. He was doing amazing, and this season as well. So we'll have to see as we're about 7 minutes into this qualifying session.
Yeah, and like you said, Kieran Harrison and Gael Valero, two of the best TCR drivers during this over the course of this last season, are not on track this time around. So Quarantine Guinez actually has a pretty good chance to close out the gap in terms of points here. But he still does have some competition here. We've got familiar drivers everywhere. We've got Ralph Benitez, we've got Pedro Mora, and a bunch of other drivers. Diego Villarreal, another AMX 5 mainstay here, looking to see if he can make a mark. And yeah, for this particular track and car combination, it's not too unusual. Of course, it's pretty standard. In fact, Road Atlanta does feature in the TCR calendar, so this is a pretty standard effect all things considered. But for all intents and purposes, the action is always high when it comes to TCRs.
And this is just one of those, like I said, I think it's such a famous track, not only just in the US, but worldwide, specifically because it has a little bit of everything. It's one of those very well-balanced tracks, whether we're out here in the TCR cars or whether we're in something like a GTP or GTD car. There's just going to be absolutely great racing. There's something for everyone out here. Also, for those of you watching live on the stream, make sure to scan the QR code, get the live timing. That way you can see all of the information that we also get to see up here in the booth. So scan that QR code, it'll pop up periodically, and you can see as right now, still Corentin Guinez with the best lap time by about 0.3 of a second. But like I said, not even halfway through. I expect the leaderboard to start shifting here over the next several minutes. But right now you can just see with Peter Zuba. Now, this is one thing that a few of the drivers too, we do have during the qualifying. It's not like normal iRacing races where you each have your own closed qualifying session and you just get out on the track. This one is a complete open track, just like many other real life, and as well as I see a lot of guys in ACC having everyone all at the track all at the same time to get out on the qualifying. So it's really good right here that we can see with these two drivers being able to get a little bit of the draft. So there are a lot of sweeping turns out here in this track, so that definitely is going to make it helpful with the draft for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, and Road Atlanta, as you said, is a very, very well-known track. It's a very fast one. Lots of sweeping turns, lots of high-speed sections. So the draft is especially important for this particular track. But with open qualifying, it does present its own set of challenges. If you're in front and you're setting the pace, it's relatively easy for you because you're running in clean air. Unfortunately, if you run into traffic, that could put a damper on your lap times, which is something that a lot of you drivers would like to avoid because they want to be out there, they want to be setting their pace, they want to be going flat out as much as they possibly can. So it's a little bit of a delicate balance between utilizing the draft of any other drivers in front of you and having enough clear air for you to go max speed the whole time. And so on board with Ayrton Reutemann here in the Honda Civic Type R TCR car, it actually looks really dashing, especially with that livery on.
And I was just taking a look at the current leaderboard. So we do have our top two leaders in AMX 5 currently not with us. That would be Gael Valero and Jackson SNJ. So those two drivers, that's going to leave room for Bruno De Carmo to come out here today and start reeling in that championship. So right now, Bruno De Carmo, he's, close about almost 80 points behind Jackson SNJ. But if he's able to perform out here, that's definitely one of those things that we've seen. The consistency from our top two drivers is the reason that they're at the top of the pack. But don't leave out any of these other drivers, the likes of Gaston Culavi, Bruno De Carmo. There's a few people out here that definitely can show up and put pace on here. So we only have a couple of Hondas out there today. That's another thing I've noticed. The Audi's been a favorite of a lot of these drivers. All throughout last season, we rarely seen any other vehicle. This season, there's a few more vehicles, but like I said, definitely the Audis have been dominating so far in AMX.
Yeah, it's got almost the perfect balance you want to see in the TCR car. It's got good cornering, good handling, good downforce, and it's also got a relatively better off-top end compared to some of the other cars on the grid. So definitely leveraging that to its fullest potential are the drivers here, and they know exactly how far they can push these cars. But it's always nice to see some variety. We haven't actually really seen people use the Hondas. Usually, if it's a different TCR car, it's usually the high-end days, but very nice to see them here doing a little bit of representation for the land of the rising sun here. And the Honda drivers are coming full force there. Another amazing livery here from Pedro Mora.
That too, I love all these. You can tell definitely some of these teams have amazing liveries, and this one out here representing Japan in the Honda Civic. So we have a full grid nearly of all of these German cars. So it's nice that we have a couple of drivers representing those Japanese vehicles. But like I said, Pedro Mura, so far we're about 13 minutes into this. and he has yet to set an official lap time. So we're going to hang on board with Pedro Moura. It looks like he's really already trying to just push it as much as he can. That too, if you go off track, you're off the track limits, that lap will not count. And we can see how close he's getting to the lines here, going through the S's, just how close he is to the line. So I'm sure he has amazing pace out here. We've seen him earlier this season, but we'll have to just see. That was enough. And we see also Ayrton Reutemann going up to second place, getting a better time. So Pedro Moura still on here, the number 8. Like we said, only one of 2 Honda Civics out here, the Honda Civic Type R. So as we come around, Pedro Moura, he's about halfway through this lap. So that's another great thing that we've seen. Just a reminder too that all of the drivers this season, we brought back being able to be out there 2 races per day. So last season, the drivers had to choose one race or the other. We listened to the drivers, we listened to the fans. Everyone said, you know what, get rid of that. We want to go back to seeing these drivers out here all day long. So the ones that want to push it hard definitely have been pushing it, and that's one of the reasons that we've seen Gael Valero and Jackson Asenje, those 2 top drivers currently this season in AMX 5. So Pedro Moura now coming around, nearly finished. So we'll have to see. It looks like he is still unofficially not set a lap time yet. So looks like he may have hit a bit of track limits on that last lap as well.
Yeah, and you have to be so careful with the track limits here, especially during the S's, which is usually where people end up cutting the track just a little bit too much, because the tactic to get through the S's is that you want to keep your line as tight and as straight as possible. So you don't want to end up using too much steering, you don't want to end up scrubbing off too much speed, and sometimes you might go a little bit too far, put too much of your car over the white lines, and then boom, your lap's completely invalidated. So definitely have to be aware of that, and especially during the race itself as well, it might rear its ugly head. Some people might end up getting a slowdown penalty, and that could put a damper on their races as well. But it looks like every other driver is doing pretty well for themselves. We've got less than 5 minutes before the end of qualifying here. Looks like Raf Benitez is actually encountering a little bit of traffic here, so he's not going to be too happy with that. He was setting a pretty good time, and look at that, Corentin Guinness, I think, no, it doesn't look like he actually improved on his time. It was just 2/10 behind his best, but he's still ahead, and that's what matters here.
So right now, let's see. Well, we do have Corentin Guinness, like you mentioned, is still in first place, but it's only by a 0.26 second gap. So we'll have to see if Ayrton Reutemann able to squeeze it out. Like we mentioned, he's one of the 2 drivers as well in the Honda Civic Type R out here today. But now we're still looking at Gaston Kulavi, a veteran out here at AMX. You can just see one of the men that is absolutely focused no matter when we can see him on screen. So right here, we have a pretty much, we have a good train going on. So a lot of these guys, a few of them on their out laps, just trying to get warm, tires, trying to heat up the brakes. So we'll have to see right here, Gaston Kulavi trying to make his way through traffic. That is one thing that, like I said, if you are trying to set a fast lap with someone else, it can either be beneficial by getting that draft of them, or it can set you back because now you have to worry about their braking markers, their line, what's going on with them. That way both of you don't end up flying off the track. So we'll have to see right now as we see Gaston Kulavi still on his out lap, as well as Martin Chico, Diego Villarreal. So they only have a little over 3 minutes to set one more blazing lap, so they might have just a couple chances out here today.
Yeah, and then again, we have to mention about Road Atlanta. Ooh, as that's Diego Villarreal. He's just taken really wide line through there, just gone off the track. And yeah, that's one thing we have to mention about Road Atlanta is that because of how severe some of the elevation changes are, a lot of these fast, high-speed sections actually end up can seem to be blind to some of these drivers, especially as it's just crossing over the horizon. So you never really know what's on the opposite side, which puts you in a relative state of caution. So you always have to be really careful about where you're parking your car through the line.
Now I was looking there when we seen Diego Villarreal go off track. So I've noticed the SART vehicles, they run a lot of the teal and black, and now they switched it up. They got a little bit different liveries going on, as well as some of their kind of minor rebranding. So we've seen a few teams do that already. I know Drago Racing, they're starting to rebrand some of their stuff. They had the epic Dragon Scale livery, and now they're moving it over to a full kind of red livery. So I've seen a lot of drivers, especially during the official iRacing ones and out here at AMX. It's very easy to kind of have, when you have the same color scheme between Team Redline and Drago Racing, from afar the liveries look pretty similar, so it's kind of hard to tell from a quick glance. But like I said, I've seen Drago Racing out there also switching up their liveries, so we'll have to see. A lot of these teams, like we mentioned, Drago Racing was one of those that we seen them a lot last season, not quite as much out here. We do see likes of, I think we've seen Aaron Vasquez show up, Nico Wierzbicki, David Toth, of course. So those guys too out here, as well as the Team Redline. Right before we took a break, one of the craziest things we got to see, Max Verstappen on the oval. So that was also a sight to see out here. So AMX, you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and I can tell you what you're definitely gonna get is intense bumper-to-bumper racing, which is what every motorsport fan is looking forward to all the time. It's just getting to see these drivers clash with each other, battle of skill, battle of power, and just all around amazing racing here at AMX. And again, if you want to be part of it, you can always sign up at amxrace.com. Gates are open for you. Feel free to take part, and pretty soon we could be shouting you out on track as well and on broadcast.
So here we have under a final minute. I see you out there, chat, saying hello. What's up to chat? Big shout out to you guys. We got Quarantine Guinez we're still on board with, still in that top spot. So it is very likely that he's going to be holding on to that top spot. Like we said, reverse grid. We have 10 drivers out here on the grid today, so not going to be as much traffic for him to go out as Quarantine Guinez. Now heading into pit lane. We have several drivers in pit lane, a few of them out on track now trying to improve their times. Look like so far no one able to do that. So with just seconds to go out here at qualifying, we are wrapping things up. Like we said, we have the beautiful TCR vehicles. This has become one of my favorite classes. Like, I was one of those people, I was a little bit more biased towards the open wheel racing, but seeing a lot of these drivers out here in the TCR cars, it definitely makes me want to go into iRacing, start purchasing them, and start heading out there, trying to do all the official series. But we'll have to see on that. Like I said, I got a lot of practice before I am anywhere near these guys. But after qualifying, your Ben Q session winner, of course, Quarantine Guinez. We seen him absolutely dominating it out here from the very beginning. Set down a quick lap time and only got better. Second place, we got Ayrton Reutman. Third, Bruno De Carmo. In fourth place, Gaston Culavi. Fifth, Martin Chico. Sixth place, Diego Villarreal. Seventh, we got Peter Zuba. Eighth place, Ralph Benitez. Ninth, Pedro Muro. And rounding it out in 10th, we got Evandro Dantas.
Yeah, and amazing to see over these 10 drivers, the gap between all of them less than a second. So you know these cars are very evenly matched. You know these drivers are very evenly matched. So we're about to see a pretty intense race here, I would say. But all that matters right now for these drivers is what's going to be in front of them as we speak. It is, of course, the start of Heat 1. And for a lot of these drivers, the start matters so very, very much to them. Because if you bungle the launch, you end up in a really compromised position for yourself, and you'll have to end up fighting your way back to the top.
And from some of our previous races this season, we've had a few drivers that they either bump it on the start and they die out, having to have everyone go out, or they just don't get the greatest of start and causes a little bit of a pile up. So we have the last few drivers now hitting the grid. We are moments away from going green out here. Road Atlanta AMX 5. And I can't believe to say this, man, we are already week 7. As the green flag goes, there they go. Everyone looks like so far has a great start. We'll have to see if they battle it out as they go on this long straight into turn 1 of those big sweeping turns, then into the S's. So looks like Evandro Dantas able to hold into that first place. Martin Chico, and oh no, we already have contact. Diego Villarreal getting spun off and into the wall. Fortunately, looks like he has quite a bit of damage from bumper falling off there. So already the door-to-door banging begins.
Oh, just like that, I think that just got Gaston Culavi. He just got pit maneuvered by another driver that I didn't really see who it was, but he's going to end up suffering there. Turn 1 shenanigans rears its head yet again. But that's what we love to see here at AMX. I'm not wishing the worst on these drivers, but gotta expect this kind of action. And already Diego Villarreal is in the pits. His race is completely compromised, so see if he'll make his way back on track. Same with Gaston Kulhami there. He's going to have to wrestle himself from a pretty bad spot. But the top 8 drivers right now, Evandro Dantas and Raf Benitez, fighting for that P1 spot, with Martin Chico trailing a little bit far behind, about 1 second separating him. But he's got to contend with Pedro Moro, Corentin Guinness, our fastest driver on qualifying. So he's going to be trying to make his way up, and Ayrton Reutemann on his heels as well.
So just like that, lap 1 has taken its first couple of victims. Like we said, this is one of those tracks, especially right there where you see the drivers going through that dip, can be a little bit of a blind corner. So if you're taking too much speed, that's also another dangerous place. So we'll have to watch out for that as we head along. But now we're through lap 1, and it is Evandro Dantas, Ralph Benitez, and Martin Chico. So these drivers, a little bit of a space between them. So we'll have to see if Evandro Dantas is able to take advantage of that and start getting a gap. So one thing, like we've seen during qualifying, a lot of these drivers getting very, very close to those track limits. So hopefully we don't have anyone out here going to slow down. We've had a few things, but we can see Ralph Benitez right there, not letting go of that P1. He says, all right, I'm right here. I'm going to hang on to the rear of your bumper like a leech. So we'll have to see if Ralph Benitez is able to overtake Evandro Dantas. Both of them, the 2 Brazilian drivers up front, showing excellent pace so far.
Yeah, Ralph Benitez is going to be eyeing that position. In fact, I have a feeling that he'll probably stick around the entire race if he has the chance. So Evandro Dantas is going to be facing a considerable amount of pressure from the 2 drivers behind him, including Martin Chico, who's actually closed the gap between him and Benitez as well. So they got to be really aware of the spacing between these 2 cars. If they end up getting into a duel with each other, it could slow them down both enough for Martin Chico to seize the opportunity and go for the pass. You can see here the gap between them, less than 4/10 of a second. So we could be looking at a potential swap in positions as well if they make a mistake. And like you mentioned, this elevation changes, especially at turn 12 here, is so steep that the brakes, you have to be really aware that your braking performance is going to deteriorate slightly because of how gravity works. So be very, very careful about your braking zones. And Ralph Benitez here actually closing the gap between him and Evandro Dantas as well. So this battle could end up happening sooner than we anticipated.
And like we can see there, that left room enough for Martin Chico to start catching up as well. So now we got a 3-way battle for the lead going on. But don't be fooled either, because we have Corentin Guinness, who is doing amazing, already up 5 positions now, sitting in 5th place. So we're only a couple of laps into this thing. Definitely plenty of time for Corentin to start making his way up to the podium. But right now, you just see is right there, Martin Chico making a beautiful move to the inside, able to overtake. Textbook move right there by Chico, getting over in front of Benitez. So Martin Chico now up 4 places into 2nd, but he's going to be coming for that lead. So I think, you know what, we'll have to see if later on, if Evandro Dantas is able to hold on to this. But right now we got Corentin Guinness alongside Pedro Moura. So another 2-way battles. We see nothing but trees, all the trees getting in the way right there. Great for scenery, not great when we're trying to focus on the drivers, but we have right here still Corentin Guinness showing why he is one of the best TCR drivers out there in the game now, securing 4th place very comfortably, looking to get up onto the podium. So Benitez was in 2nd, he is now in 3rd, but has to battle off Corentin Guinness. So we'll have to see Guinness a little bit more pace currently, as he set the fastest lap last lap. So we'll have to see. He definitely has the fastest pace out here. Number 1 in qualifying, just showing why he is one of the best of the best.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, Corentin Guinness is also currently holding the race fastest lap. So he's definitely flying and trying to catch up to this top 3 here. I want to go back to that pass that Martin Chico did on Ralph Benitez, because it was quite a beautiful sight to see. He actually flicked the rear a little bit to keep make the car go a little bit straight and gain enough speed on the exit to make that pass happen. So great move from Chico here, but Ralph Benitez is going to have to do a little bit more of a defensive driving style here, trying to keep Corentin Guinness off his tail. Really, his front bumper is almost touching the exhaust tip of Ralph Benitez here, and the draft is helping him making that pass. We'll see if he manages to clear Benitez before they reach the next corner here. Looks like they might just be able to. Holding alongside, side by side here is Corentin Guinness, making the top 3 position look quite easy. And here comes the heavy braking zone here. Ooh, making that pass really clean there. Ralph Benitez did not have an answer for Guinness here.
And for a lot of people out there, so Corentin Guinez, like we've seen from AMX, he is an AMX veteran as well as just an iRacing veteran in general. So it definitely helps when you have one of these guys that if you see him down there, whenever he pops up on the screen, you say, hey, that guy looks a little bit familiar. Well, I'm sure if you're trying to learn a lot of tracks in iRacing, you may recognize his face. He's one of these people that does a lot of track guides, so he knows nearly every single track out here from the last several years, inside and out. He knows these tracks like the back of his hand, and it's definitely showing out here today, especially in some of these slightly lower horsepower vehicles. I've seen him as well whenever we have the GT4 Class, doing an amazing job out here. So the TCR vehicles, we are lap number 5 of 8 out here in heat number 1. It is Evandro Dantas, Martin Chico, and Corentin Guinez, your current top 3. As Corentin Guinez looking to the outside, and ooh, a bit of a door banging right there between Evandro Dantas and Martin Chico, leaving the door wide open for Corentin Guinez to slot right into second place.
Yeah, and Dantas was trying to shut the door on that pass here, but Chico used his foot, kicked the door open, and just flung Dantas back, giving Corentin Guinez an opportunity to make 2 passes within 3 corners there. He's holding on to that P1 position right now as they're about to enter the next left-hander here. Martin Chico does have the inside line, so he's going to take that position back. But now he knows that Guinez is gunning for it, and he's not going to give out the chase that easily. Flashing his lights there, it is Guinez telling Chico, you know what, I'm coming for you. We only have about 3 laps left. You're definitely going to want to be careful.
And still seen, it looks like Corentin Guinez still holding the fastest lap of this heat number 1. So first place in qualifying, and now so far setting the fastest out here in heat number 1. So he definitely has the pace over Martin Chico. It's just a matter of trying to force him to make a mistake and trying to make that opportune pass. So we definitely seen that the last few drivers over the last couple of laps. Corentin Guinez up 8 places, all the way down from 10th place now into 2nd place. So we got a great chase on our hands going on out here, folks.
Yeah, and Guinez, if he wins this, he'll be 1 race away from winning the Grand Slam for this particular AMX 5 race, and definitely want to be looking for that. Or should I say Triple Crown? I think that makes a bit more sense. A Grand Slam probably mean he wins every single class as well, but he's going to be happy with just winning this particular class. As you can see here, a lot of drivers here comments saying, I wish I could race next week. Yeah, feel free to join amxrace.com. Registration is there. All you have to do is just sign up and join in, and you could be racing with these guys as well, and we could be shouting you out on the broadcast. Ooh, Guinez a little shaky on the loose, trying to make a pass on Chico, but does have a nicer exit there off the chicane, and looks like Chico is still not relieved of the pressure that he's facing for Corentin Guinez. Ooh, coming on the outside there. Guinez has to play a little bit defensive, keep the line closed for Guinez here. Oh, this is going to be tight. Guinez is just looking, biting and nipping at the bait, looking for opportunities to make a move. Looks like he just might have made it happen. He's still on the outside though. Corentin Guinez pulling alongside. He's got the inside track for the S-turns here. And just like that, he makes the pass clean on the Chico. No incident, no fuss, just extremely professional driving.
Man out there, so that is just showing why Corentin Guinez, one of the best TCR drivers out there. Well, we can see right here towards the beginning of the race earlier, the crash with Diego Villarreal. Looks like he was just going a little bit wide and unfortunately ended up getting pitted and thrown into the wall, and that was his race. Had to get back straight into the pits, get those repairs done. Now he's about a lap down. So unfortunately for Diego Villarreal, that was his race for heat number 1, but good news with that top 15 reverse grid that we have, he will be sitting on pole position come the next heat. So unfortunate race beginning for Diego Villarreal. Now he'll have a chance to redeem himself for heat number 2. But right now, we still have battles of going on in the middle of the pack as well. We had another incident earlier, Gaston Kulavi. So like I said, it's just a matter of these drivers definitely getting a bit aggressive with each other and just sliding off, going into the wall. So Kulavi also down in 9th place. The 2 drivers had the biggest incidences, unfortunately, all the way back to the pack.
Yeah, they're definitely feeling themselves out a little bit on track there, trying to see really how much they can push these cars. Again, TCRs, they're quite forgiving on the account of being front-wheel drive, but make no mistake, they will still bite you if you push them too far over the limit. As Raf Benitez had a really good starting position, but now dropping 2 spots and is being pressured by Bruno Ricardo here. If he can hold it off for just one more lap, he'll be securing that P4. He's going to be pretty satisfied with the result. But Evandro Dantas in front of him, rounding out the podium. Ines pulling away from Martin Chico. There's just no way the rest of these cars are catching up to him. And Martin Chico is going to have to be comfortable, satisfied with that second position. Meanwhile, the rest of the drivers on the grid, we have Raul Benitez, of course, and Bruno Carmo right on his bumper. Pedro Moura behind is scoping out an opportunity to strike. Ayrton Reutemann behind him is Peter Zuba is also there, trailing by about another second. So, I think at this point in time, positions are all going to be pretty much set in stone. So, be interesting to see. Relatively no fuss aside from the lap 1 shenanigans there. Everything else was pretty clean.
And then we can see the two Delinta Esports drivers right there too. A little bit of friendly battle going on, but I know at this point you're on the final lap. You do not want to make any mistakes. As we can see, Corentin Guinez coming out across the checkered flag. First place to Corentin, second Martin Chico, and in third we have Evandro Dantas. So out there looking cool, calm, and collected. Corentin Guinez able to take the win home as the rest of the drivers start making their way across the grid. And here we see too Diego Villarreal, who, like we noticed earlier, unfortunately had that incident that sent him into the wall on lap number 1, is now making his way across the finish line. So bad news for Heat 1, but Heat 2, he's going to end up on pole position, and let's see if he'll be able to come back swinging and hold on to that. We always know out here, especially TCR and GT4s, definitely seem like the 2 classes that we have those crazy lap 1 incidences the most. A little bit, I'd say probably those ones that you don't have too much downforce and you're relying a lot on mechanical grip. Definitely, whenever you're trying to push these things to the very edge, you just scrub off a little bit of speed, have a little bit of oversteer going into some of these corners, and that sometimes puts you into another driver.
Yeah, as they say, sometimes slower cars make the best racing, and even with not much power, these TCRs and GT4 cars are definitely going to be putting on the show for us tonight. But that rounds out Heat 1 as Diego Villarreal crosses the line there. Our winner here, Corentin Guinez, will be starting on the back for next heat. But as we've seen before, it's not like that's a challenge for him.
And here's our official qualifying results. Sorry, our official Heat 1 results. We already did qualifying, but it is still the same person sitting atop. Corentin Guinez, your BenQ session winner, first place, followed by Martin Chico in second. Evandro Dantas sitting in third place. Ralph Benitez fourth. Bruno DeCarmo fifth. Pedro Moura sixth. Ayrton Reutemann seventh. Peter Zuba in eighth place. Gaston Coulavi in ninth. And Diego Villarreal in 10th place. So like we said, another reverse grid going into heat number 2. Diego Villarreal sitting in that pole position, and we're already off. Here we go, folks. Green flags flying. Looks like so far a lot of these drivers got great starts. A couple of them towards the back of the pack now looking to make room towards the middle. So we have 2 wide already going into turn number 1. Almost a 3 wide situation there, but these guys are holding on to it very, very well. They know, all right, don't have that much grip going from a standing start. We don't have the most grip out here. Got to wait for these tires to go warm. And we're heading into the S's. So this is where we've seen incidents happening last heat. So we'll have to see so far these drivers able to keep it a little bit clean. Ooh, as we're going a little too wide through the S's.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to end up going wide on the S's. You scrub off a lot of speed as Bruno DeCarmo is really getting pressured off of his line by some of the other drivers here. Been forced off a couple of times by Corentin Guinez and Reutemann as well, so he's not going to be too happy with that. Ooh, Diego Villarreal has just gone off again there. I think he made a break a little bit too late there, and then lost his grip, lost his line, so ended up losing 2 positions. Gaston Coulavi now in front with Peter Zuba in P2.
And there we can see Pedro Moura now was up a couple positions, now dropping back down into 5th place where he was on the grid. So we see a side-by-side, 2x2 right there between Villarreal, Peter Zuba, Benitez, Moura. So we have to see these guys battling it out. So far has let Gaston Coulavi already get over a 2-second gap. So we'll have to see as Corentin Guinez fighting his way. Whoa, gets a little bit of a bump from the back. And, oh no, right there we have Ayrton Reutemann just getting a little bit loose. Like we said, that is one of those most dangerous turns on the track out here at Road Atlanta. And we just seen why. just going out there in that blind crest a little bit, didn't have quite the grip, and unfortunately out here, still with slightly cold tires, just going into the other drivers. So we might have to get a replay on that just to see a little bit more exactly how that unfolded. But for right now, that leaves Gaston Kulavi in first, Diego Villarreal in second, and Peter Zuba chasing him down in third.
Yeah, last race we had turn 1 shenanigans, now we have turn 12 shenanigans, and well, it just never really stops with these drivers, but it's all in the name of racing and being competitive. Definitely some mistakes can happen, especially for that particular corner. It is again very difficult to be aware of the elevation changes as you're coming down onto the downhill part. However, Diego Villarreal did walk out a pretty substantial winner there, gained another position back up to P2 with Pedro Zuba behind him. But again, man of the hour, driver is currently in P5. Corentin Guinness is making up 5 positions already, is now charging his way back to the front of the pack.
So we can see Corentin Guinness already setting the fastest in qualifying, winning number 1. Sorry, I don't know why I said it so weird. Winning first place in heat number 1, and now looking to make it a back-to-back for heat number 2. We definitely know he has the pace out here. Just objectively, he is faster around this track out here today than the other drivers. So already up 6 places, and now up 5 places, now looking to make it 6. Ralph Benitez in 4th place too, just doing an amazing job of defending him, and Corentin Guinness able to set the fastest lap so far. So we're 3 laps into this, and we already have some amazing fights going on right here in the middle of the pack. So Ralph Benitez, the Delinta Esports driver, doing everything that he can to keep up the speed, but he knows, all right, I have someone just chasing me down right now. I'm going to have to be in my rear view mirror more than I'd like to.
Yeah, you don't want to make any mistakes, but the problem with being under pressure is that you're constantly having to look at behind you, making sure that he doesn't make it past, but Corentin Guinness just making it through there. No fuss at all, making it very clean pass, and he is just charging up the front of the pack right now, currently up to P4. He's got about 5 laps remaining here to make up the rest of the gap. A bit of a gap actually from P1 all the way to where he is right now. Around about 3.5 seconds is the time that we're seeing. But if any driver can make it, it's probably Guinness, and barring a mistake from Gaston Kulhavi, he's probably going to hold on to that lead for quite a while. Because Diego Villarreal is actually holding off Peter Zuba right now, trying to keep him from taking an opportunity to pass.
So still these two fighting back here. As we can see right there, the lap 1 incident going down the hill. Ayrton Ruitman just going over the crest a little bit too hot, and unfortunately when you have that big of a drop in the incline, you do not have any grip on those front wheels. So he was able to go nowhere but straight, and unfortunately straight meant going right into the other driver. So right now Ayrton Ruitman currently sitting in 8th place after that incident, but we still have Gaston Kulavi and Diego Villarreal. They're top 2 with Villarreal trying to still hold off Peter Zuba, Corentin Guinness right behind him as well as Ralph Benitez. So those battles behind him have left plenty of room for Gaston Kulavi. Over 2.5 seconds already as we are halfway through heat number 2.
Yeah, Corentin Guinness does have a tall order here. He's got to make it past these 2 drivers who are battling each other to the point where they're slowing the rest of the grid down, and Corentin Guinness does not want to be a part of that. He wants to get past these 2 cars as quickly as possible. Will have some time before he has to be impatient with his actions here. But right now, it's just Diego Villarreal doing a pretty good job at defending his position. We'll have to see if Peter Zuba goes for a brave move, and will Corentin Guinness take advantage of that as well. You see on board here the picture-in-picture of Corentin Guinness just watching, silently eyeing them like a hawk, waiting to make sure that they make a mistake, and when they do, he's just gonna pounce on them.
And seeing a couple of the lines so far that Peter Zuba is taking right now, it looks like he is just as focused on defending his position as we see now Corentin Guinness trying to go for the move, and he is able to get right in front of him. So that sent the inside to the out, able to get a little bit wide, had enough grip to get through that, and now back through the S's. So Corentin Guinness now back on podium contention. Well, we know he has the pace. We'll see. We only have about 3 laps left here if he has enough to get past Diego Villarreal and reel back in Gaston Kulavi. That way he can come out here 3 in a row qualifying heat number 1, and now he's looking to make it heat number 2 victory. So we'll have to see as Gaston Kulavi just keeps pulling ever so slightly away, now already up to about 2.8 seconds ahead of the other drivers. So definitely Gaston Kulavi, we've seen him last heat, has a pretty decent pace out here. Only a couple tenths of a second now slower than Corentin Guinez, who does currently have the fastest lap out here in heat number 2.
Yeah, Corentin Guinez is going to try and see if he can make his way past Diego Villarreal, and then we'll have to see whether or not he'll be able to close the gap between him and Gaston Kulhavi, because barring any mistakes from Kulhavi here, it doesn't seem like he can narrow the gap quite enough over the course of the next 3 laps in order to actually contest for that position. However, it is too soon to tell, because you can see here from the sector times, Guinez is just making time onto Villarreal here. And Villarreal is going to be under a bit of pressure. He made up 0.3 of a second over the course of that lap. 2 laps remain right now. Diego Villarreal, if he holds on to this position, it'll be his best finish all season.
And looking at that, like I mentioned, I always talk about drivers that we see out here every single week, improving every single week that we see them. It seems like they're just getting better and better, putting in more and more practice. And now Diego Villarreal, definitely one of those drivers that we've seen nearly every single week, and he's been here pretty much since the beginning from AMX. He's been here so long, so it's just crazy to see if we go back to some of those old videos compared to now, even though it hasn't even been a year since we've been broadcasting nearly every single weekend. It's still amazing to see how fast a lot of these drivers are progressing. And right now, Diego Villarreal holding on to that second place position. So there's enough of a gap, I think, at this point that he's trying to think, you know what? I'm just going to try and worry about holding off Corentin Guinez, try to keep it safe and consistent. That seems like that's really the only thing that has been plaguing Diego Villarreal right now, is he is getting faster and faster, but it's just the littlest tiny things. It's those hundredths of a second that are really what matter right now. So he's still doing an amazing job. You can see just the absolute focus on his face down there in the bottom left-hand corner. So we'll have to see. Gaston Kulavi still in the lead. Diego Villarreal in second, battling off Corentin Guinez for that 3rd place position as well.
Yeah, the penultimate lap here, and he definitely mentioned that Diego Villarreal is definitely one of the most improved drivers here. Couple of mistakes on his end usually end up spiraling out of control and forcing him into compromised positions here, but it seems he's managing to keep it nice and steady here for the rest of this race. All he has to do is fend off this pressure from Corentin Guinez here, who's narrowed the gap down to less than 0.2 of a second here. Through the S's, you can definitely see Corentin Guinez is making a lot of time here.
And also from racing against Villarreal last season, I can say him as well as another one that we got to see, another driver of Connor Healy. I think that's really been kind of the two of these guys that we've seen very similar things from the guys that may have not had as much experience. We've seen other people, like I know out here talking to some of the guys or seeing them in the interviews, putting in 8 hours, 10 hours a day in the sim. So whether that or they're a real life driver, we have a lot of guys that are karting drivers. We have some real life pro drivers, GT4, of course, Max Verstappen joins in, Formula One. We have some WEC guys, but here we go. Corentin Guinez finally hiding his time, making the move to the inside. Beautiful, but Diego Villarreal close on his heels here. So lap 7, they're about to get the white flag as we go down nearly into the last lap. Villarreal doing a great job holding on to that, but like we said, Corentin Guinez just had a little bit more pace over him, but Villarreal holding on to the draft as well. So here we go, folks. The white flag is flying. Everything is coming out. Gloves are off. These drivers are laying it all out on the line right now. So we'll have to see Diego Villarreal now in 3rd place, but we'll have to see if he is able to get the pace to catch back up to Corentin Guinez. About a 2.5 second gap between Guinez and Kulavi. I think this is where the battle may be for 2nd place.
Ooh, Diego Villarreal almost lost it there on the S's. He actually put the rear end a little bit too far forward. Started oversteering a little bit, but managed to keep it under control. That's going to cost him, however. He's now dropped to a second behind Corentin Guinez. So he's still in the draft, so to speak, but it's not going to be enough for him to actually pull up close to him. So he's going to be really satisfied. He's going to have to be satisfied with P3 as long as he can keep Ralph Benitez off of his back. and it looks like he'll be able to do so right now. Still a very consistent 8/10 of a second gap between these two drivers. He is stuck on an island all of his own, however, now out of the draft of Guinness. As long as he can hold it, a podium finish, not a bad result at all. But here is the man of the race here, Gaston Kulhavi, from start to finish, unchallenged and uncontested as he crosses turn 12 here into the start-finish straight. Crossing the finish line, and there we go. Race win for Kulhavi. He's going to be pretty happy with that.
So there we go, folks. Gaston Kulhavi coming across the checkered flag first, followed by Corentin Guinness, who unfortunately had a bit more battling going on this heat, unable to get back in the top spot, but no doubt that he will be the overall winner for today. And Diego Villarreal holding on to that third place position, had a little bit of a slip up there towards the end, but able to keep it back on the track and come away on top of that podium. I know that he's happy about that. Like we said, a lot of these drivers just doing absolutely amazing. Everyone out here pushing it as far as they can, pushing themselves, pushing each other, and that is why AMX is so great. So here we go, guys. Your official results right now from heat number 2. We have Gaston Kulhavi, your BenQ session winner, followed by Corentin Guinness in second, who did set the fastest lap for heat number 2. And you can see there, fist bumping in the air, the excitement for Gaston Kulhavi, especially. You got to know that excitement coming out of that when you had Corentin Guinness doing such an amazing job, absolutely dominating, to be able to hold out in front of him and walk away with that final win. But third place, like we've seen, Diego Villarreal doing amazing job, only getting better and better every single week. Ralph Benitez in fourth, Peter Zuba in fifth, Martin Chico in sixth, Ayrton Reutemann seventh, Evandro Dantas eighth, Pedro Muro in ninth, and Bruno De Carmo in 10th. So again, unfortunately, a few drivers getting into those incidences and sending them all the way back. But man, this has probably been one of the best TCR races that we've had all season long. Just the back and forth between the drivers, the battles going on. Although it's only 8 laps out here, I'd love to see some longer races in these TCR vehicles. So who knows? Like we said, right now we do have the AMX 20 class, a little bit longer races, usually a little bit faster cars, but it'd be interesting to see if we have that same sort of format for some of these slower cars, how that would go. Damon, what would be your thoughts on if we had some longer races on these vehicles?
Yeah, I think this race in particular was one of the shorter ones on the calendar. We actually finished way ahead of schedule here, but again, sometimes it's not the length of the race that matters, it's what content is in the race, like how close the action gets, how close the racing is. And sometimes you just get races like this where it's relatively low fuss but still pretty high intensity. We still see a lot of overtaking, and regardless of whether or not the duration is long or short, we still definitely have some intense racing. But I definitely agree with you, it'll be really interesting to see how longer races pan out. We've definitely seen it before with the AMX 20 races, and those were slobber knockers of a race. They were amazingly fun to watch.
Absolutely. So first race back over the break. We're already in week 7. It's crazy to see where the time has flown so far. But also, like I said, everyone, we have the social media back up on the screen now whenever we are here. Our beautiful faces, our ugly mugs, however you might see us. But make sure that you guys also follow us there. We have the results coming in as well. So we do also have the official results. Like we said, now we're doing 2 AMX 5 races this season on Saturdays versus last season we had AMX 1, AMX 5. So switching it up a bit. I know I've seen some people out there in chat that you guys saying you want to get on these races. So I'd love to head over to amxrace.com. We'd love to see you in here. 2,000 iRating for AMX 5, and as well as every other weekend we have AMX 0 in there. So it'd be great to have as many people as we can get. The more, the merrier. But like we said, we do have the official results. So we'll have to see, like you said, everyone knows it. Corentin Guinness just being an absolute monster out here in race number 1. Followed by second, we got Gaston Presta Kulhavi, and third place, Martin Chico. So those are your overall top 3 for today. AMX 5 race 25, that is your top 3. But like I said, that left plenty of room. Some of these drivers now able to get up in the standings just a little bit. We did not have Gael Valero out there today, or Jackson Ascenje, so we'll have to see if they show up for the second race or if they're going to both be taking a day off, leaving some time to get out there. So like we said, here are your current standings. Corentin Guinness so close to getting the Triple Crown today. We'll have to see what he does for race number 2. Absolutely amazing job out here. So congratulations to all of the drivers. We hope that all these same guys still show up for race number 2 out here today, as well as all the viewers out there, like we said, live on Twitch and YouTube every single weekend. We love seeing you guys. We love seeing you interact in the comments as well. We do read your chat. We love it. Damon, I mean, if we see these same drivers come out for race number 2, I mean, what do you think that we can expect to see for that?
I think in terms of car and track combination, GT4s definitely present their own challenges. They don't have as much downforce. They have to rely more on mechanical grip. Got around the same amount of power, so it'll definitely be interesting to see. And if these same drivers are going to be on track as well, we might even see more drivers coming in for the later races. Definitely expect to see even more action coming right up.
So that's right. So today, although we do have slower cars, we just seen some of the closest racing. I expect to see that again. So coming up very soon, we do have the GT4 cars out at Snetterton Circuit. So I think that this is going to be one of those great car track combinations. We're going to see a lot of very similar close racing. And if we do have these top 3 drivers out here today, we'll have to see who else shows up, who else is not able to make it. But one thing we know for sure, it is always great racing out here in AMX. So season 5 has been crazy. We are in the second half of the season. Like we mentioned, we're going all the way through August 18th, and a few different people. I know myself, I was unfortunately unable to go into the race before we just went on the break. So hopefully whenever I'm not up in here in the booth, I'll be able to hop in there, have a little bit of fun, as well as all of the viewers. So that'll be it for now. Like we said, don't go anywhere, guys. We do have plenty of action coming up very, very soon here. The GT4 cars. It's going to be another good one. Stick around. We will see you all very soon. Miranda Pedro Zubla into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers, coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, it's supposed to soon there. Sende goes up.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to lead? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
To save our home, we must travel through the gateway to find new energy.
Carousel immediately, he gets punted off. That was Simracing. He's gone up, he's been tapped, and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin! Oh,
and
no!
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lalum does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they come into the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lalum seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lalum takes it.
and Peter Zuba into the wall.
It's actually Valero. Valero's actually gone off into the barriers coming up to the cutting.
David Todd making his way back up has already climbed 7 positions.
Oh, I spoke too soon there. Sandy goes off.
So right now, this is going to be where it's going to get shaken up. David Todd passes them while they are in the pit through the mountain straight now, going 3 wide.
Oh my word, that is probably one of the best shows of the entire season.
So we have 3-way battle going to the most dangerous turn of the mountain. Up the mountain, we have contact right there. These guys going absolutely crazy. It's going to come down to the final corner, Murray's corner. Who is going to have to leave? We may have a drag race to the finish line on our hands, folks. You see David Todd right now going into the pit lane.
Big accident there. I think that was Petroni. He's just gone off. Whoa, into the carousel immediately. He gets punted off. That was Saavedra. Aguilar, he's gone off. He's been tapped and he's into the barriers. Oh, the rejoin.
Oh,
Oh,
and-
no.
Dean. Oh, Pedro, Dean.
Oh, Chris Lawler does have the inside track for the Swiss left. If he's able to make that pass happen, he might be able to cut away Victorino. He does make that pass, and he makes it clean as they're coming to the right hand. And this is it. Chris Lawler seizes the opportunity and makes it. And just as the end, the rain comes to put a pin onto the end of the race, and Chris Lawler takes it.
Another beautiful day of racing out here in Norfolk, UK. That's right, folks. We were in the US earlier, but now we're across the pond at the famous Snetterton Circuit in the GT4 cars. Everyone, welcome back to Season 5 of AMX Racing, the AMX Sim Racing World Championship. That's right, folks. But we have another great iRacing AMX 5 race on the way. We had one earlier today in the TCR class, and now I expect a lot of the same of what we've seen earlier. But just for those of you who may have not caught the first race, Damon, how would you describe what went down earlier today?
I would describe it as intense, which is pretty much what I can say for every other race on our calendar thus far. And TCR is always banging racing. We always had a lot of fun watching them. A little bit of a short one that time around, but regardless, we still definitely had some pretty good bumper-to-bumper action.
And that's exactly what I expect to see. So I already seen a few of the drivers that are in practice, some of the same ones that were here earlier. So just a reminder, this season we brought back the drivers being able to compete in both races per day. So we've seen a lot of the same guys in 2 races each day. And for all of you watching at home, big shout out to all of our viewers out there on Twitch and on YouTube. Make sure to follow all of our social media as well as get the best highlights, replays, and head over to amxrace.com if you want to hop into these races with us or just see the full calendar. So before we get into today's qualifying session, we are currently in week number 7 out here. The time has been flying so much. We've been out here since May 25th, and we're going all the way through August 18th this season with a total season prize pool of $15,000 and next level racing gear. The format goes as followed for our AMX 5 races. 20-minute qualifying session going into a top 15 reverse grid, followed by a 20-minute heat number 1 and heat number 2. And in between those two, we have a second top 15 reverse grid. So for all of our drivers out there on the track with us, driver cams are required. You can get the link via our AMX Discord or on the website, amxrace.com. Payouts are done in balances over $100 paid out every single month. So once you hit that $100 threshold, expect to see some money headed your way. Like I mentioned, we are here every single weekend on Saturday and Sunday. To get the full schedule or to sign up, head over to amxrace.com. On Saturdays and Sundays, we started up at 5:50 p.m. live on Twitch and YouTube, followed by a second race at 7:20 p.m. And this season, we have every other week a couple different races. Assetto Corsa Competizione also starting at 5:50 p.m. And on the opposite weeks, we have AMX 0 at 5:50 p.m., followed by the all-new AMX 20 class at 7 p.m. So make sure to follow the full schedule to see what we are doing this week. I know we have lovely ACC going on tomorrow, so make sure to stick around for that as well. The current prize pool for our AMX 5 iRacing goes as following. You do get points in qualifying, $15 for first, $10 for second, $9 for third, and all the way down into 15th place. And also in heat number 1, heat number 2, the same amount of points, same amount of money, but the fastest lap gets an extra $2 added to their account with a total prize pool per race of $250. And like I said, if you want to join in on these races, it is a minimum 2,000 I rating for our AMX 5 iRacing. As well as those cash prizes, we do have other lovely folks at Next Level Racing given to the championship of each season. We have this season the GT Elite Wheel Plate Edition, one of the best sim rigs out there, as well as one of the most comfy seats, the ERS3 reclining seat to go along with that. So the champion is not only going to be getting a lot of money headed their way, but going to be having one of the best Next Level Racing gears that there is out there. And like we mentioned earlier, we are out at the famous Snetterton Circuit. But Damon, one of the best circuits out here, currently became free for iRacing, was a paid track, now is free, so a lot more action on there. But it's more than just the track. Damon, go ahead and tell the lovely folks exactly what we're doing out here today.
Yeah, thank you very much for that introduction. And as you well know, we are of course on across the Atlantic here in the city of Norfolk. Snetterton was actually built on the base of a former Royal Air Force airfield, which was then taken over by the United States Air Force and then closed in 1948. The track was then built over on top of it and then opened in 1951. So it's pretty old track, about 70, 72 years old. We are running the 200 layout, so we're missing the infield part of the course, but it's still a pretty long track, all things considered, about 3.2 kilometers. And yeah, it's definitely looking like it's going to be fun. There's a lot of high-speed sections as well, so that means the cars that we're taking over will definitely have space to completely flex their legs, stretch it out, pull all the power. And of course, the cars you see on the screen right now, the GT4 Class cars, almost close to road spec cars. It had a little bit of wing or a little bit of downforce, but about the same amount of power as the TCR cars with a lot less downforce and weighing about the same. Could prove to be a new set of challenges for our drivers here. These are definitely very, very iconic cars. In fact, you might recognize some of them on the track right now. They're definitely some of the best looking cars on the field here, and definitely looking out for a few of them. There are quite a variety this time around. And with that, we can take it back over to you, Kevin, as we begin our qualifying session.
Thank you, Damon. So like we mentioned, out here, Snetterton Circuit, running the 200 layout. So we're not doing the full 300 layout, but I expect this to be a great car track combination out here in the GT4s today. We've seen, like we mentioned earlier, iRacing making this included in their base content. There's been tons of great races that we've seen with the Formula V, the Formula Fords in the FF1600s, as well as the GR86 Cup cars. But in real life, this track is also known as part of the British GT Championship. So definitely a lot of people very familiar with this track, and we'll have to see how familiar our drivers are with this track. As we can see, Corentin Guinez, who is doing absolutely amazing in our race earlier on today in the TCR vehicles, now also showing he can come out here and he's one of the best in the GT4, as well as we have some other people that we've seen earlier: Evandro Dantas, Pedro Moura, Gaston Culavi, Diego Villarreal. So most of these guys were here earlier today, but as you can see on the screen right there, Josh Thompson, the Team Redline driver, he is out here. We'll have to see if he can compete to the highest level on the GT4 cars. The only thing that is a little bit different, I know he is very familiar with a lot of different cars, more specifically the GT3. We've seen him do amazing, as well as the Porsche Cup cars. So out here with a little bit less downforce, a little bit more mechanical grip that you're having to rely on, especially in the 200 layout. This is definitely going to show these guys their chops, how quickly they can adjust to this car out here on track today.
Yeah, and as you can see on the track right now, it is not a particularly wide track. In fact, it's very narrow in places. So overtaking maneuvers might end up being a little bit more risky than the drivers would like. And you can notice as well as Josh Thompson, they're entering T1. It actually tightens a bit near the exit, so you have to be really careful with the line you take. And again, with these cars not having too much downforce, having to rely on a lot of mechanical grip, it's all up to the drivers to keep them under control here.
You can see there just a little bit of frustration on Josh's face, as he's not quite getting in the laps that he's hoping so far. He's not too far off the pace right now. Like we said, we've seen him in other series in iRacing as well. You see the little black box on his iRating. That means he has a current pro license in iRating. So one of the few drivers that we do have out here, a pro esports sim driver, of course, for Team Redline. But now we're on board with Bruno De Carmo, who was doing pretty well last race. Unfortunately, there was a few incidences early on, so we'll see if we're going to have a repeat of race number 1 earlier today, or if we're going to see some carnage going on lap number 1. We'll just have to wait and see. But right now, it is Corentin Guinez in first, Bruno De Carmo in second, and Martin Chico sitting in that third place position.
Yeah, and looking at the cars on the grid, we see a decent variety here. I see a couple of Astons, a couple of Porsches, and a couple of Mercs. No McLarens this time around, which is a shame. I quite like the McLaren cars here. But here it is, as we're talking now, the Mercedes are coming down the field. All three of them, as a matter of fact, almost sporting the same liveries on the front side. You can barely tell the difference. It's only when you look at the side profile that you can really see how these liveries are distinguished apart from one another. But we are on board Martin Chico right now, leading the pack of Mercs through the track, and they're about to come up with some back markers right now. So far, Brendan Guinness still holding the fastest time here, pretty much unchallenged. This is this SimRC driver here. A little bit of a delay here is going to be sacking the lap and coming out of the pits yet again for another outlap. We've got about 10 minutes left in qualifying, and you can see right now is that these drivers, seeing how narrow this track is, as soon as you run into some traffic, you're going to end up losing quite a bit of pace.
And speaking of the Sim RC, so I know now we do have a lot of stuff in iRacing going on. That's kind of been the top sim out there. But I do see a lot of these drivers have been going out to Rennsport. So now we've had the open beta. They've had professional competitions going on. So, I mean, we'll have to see what happens with that, as well as we just added. So last season, instead of course a competizione, we've had some interest from that. We've had some fans saying it, but I wouldn't be surprised now with the introduction of Rennsport, as well as some of the other sims going on, you know, having to see exactly how many of these drivers are interested, whether they take off or not. But for now, definitely some of the best iRacers in the world, as we are back on board with Josh Thompson, who's currently sitting right in the middle of the pack in that 5th place position. So the only UK driver out there on the grid today. We know he has pace. We've seen it. We've seen earlier. There's just a couple of places that he wasn't too happy with his laps early on. Hits that sausage curve just a little hard, unsettles that car. So that's definitely going to be one place to look out for, folks, is that turn going into some of these a little bit too hard. When you have those sausage curves that high, to really unsettle the cars, especially ones like this that don't have the most amount of downforce and relying a lot more on that mechanical grip.
Yeah, you can see here the lack of downforce really stopping the cars from utilizing the most of that curve. As Quentin Guinness, it looks like he just improved on his best lap. He's now into the 112s, far and away ahead of the other drivers here. Bruno Ricardo still about 2/10 behind him. So Quentin Guinness is cementing his position as one of the fastest racers we have today. So definitely a man to look out for. But Josh Thompson not going to give up without a fight.
And so we see, Josh Thompson, unfortunately, not having the best lap last time around, having to scrap that one, but he's still sitting in the 113. So the most of the drivers right now sitting in the 113s. I think right here, honestly, in these vehicles, it is a little bit more difficult in the 200 layout than it would be in the full 300 layout of the track. Just with that 300 layout, there's a little bit longer turns, being able to carry in a little bit more speed. Out here we can see some of these turns out in the 200 layout. They're just having to just get on the brakes a lot more, really having to slow down and pick it back up. So I'll expect, this being such a narrow track, that's where we're going to see a lot of overtakes happen, but that's where we could potentially see a lot of drivers get punted. As we can see, all right, just now missing that sausage curve this time around for Josh Thompson. So looks like he may be setting an improvement on his lap. We'll have to see as he comes across the flag. Not the flag yet, but he comes across the start finish line. Looks like he is bang on with his previous lap, a 113.37. So setting the exact same lap time that he had earlier on. So he is definitely one of the most consistent drivers out here. So we'll have to see as we are 13 minutes into this 20-minute qualifying session.
Yeah, less than 7 minutes left, and top 3 right now run by 3 different manufacturers. The Cayman on top with the Aston Martin Vantage in second place, with the Merc AMG GT in third. So very healthy blend here at the top. Here we are with Peter Zuba there, running into a bit of traffic. He's sacking this lap. It looks like he's going to start over from the pit lane. But again, and how narrow this track is, especially at this particular sector that we're seeing Bruno De Carmo go through right now, this definitely isn't a prime overtaking spot. So if anyone decides to be brave here, it might end up costing them dearly.
Looking out there too, so chat giving a shout out to Peter Zuba. We've seen Peter Zuba, like we said, a lot last season as well this season. He has been putting on some great battles. We know he definitely has pace. This is definitely going to be one of those, I think, favoring some of the guys that are a little bit more used to these GT4 cars. So a lot of guys out here definitely used to the TCR class, very, very popular, as well as some of the GT3. So this is a little bit kind of in between you know, the TCR class, obviously those cars, we have the front wheel drive versus now heading back to the rear wheel drive. But in terms of just overall speed and pace, these are just a little bit faster in certain tracks, a lot of different places. They're going to have to get used to these, especially changing the mindset. So earlier we had the TCR class, now going into GT4, just having to get used to that part of your brain saying, all right, I was in a front wheel drive vehicle earlier, now I'm back to a rear wheel drive. I'm just going to have to take these corners just a little bit different. So I think that's really the big difference now that we've seen with Corentin Guinez being a specialist in GT4 cars.
Yeah, like you said, it presents a new set of challenges because so some of these drivers, if you make a mistake in the TCR cars, with the front wheel drive, you can just power through it, keep your foot on the floor and straighten the car out. Hopefully you make some mistakes. With these rear wheel drive cars, you do not have the luxury. If you put too much power, if you keep your foot flat on the floor, you're going to end up spinning out, and that's definitely going to cost you. As Corentin Guinez there set a really fast first sector, but didn't really get any improvement on last end, so you're not going to see any improvement for his on his lap. In fact, he's about 200ths of a second below his fastest, but he's still going to be pretty comfortable in that top spot right now. Bruno De Carmo is also trying to catch up to him. We're on board with Ralph Benitez right now, utilizing the draft from the car in front of him in order to see whether or not he can set another fastest lap. But again, this is going to be a pretty tall order for him.
And another thing, as we had seen this last lap, Corentin Guinez did improve on his lap time once again. But one thing that I had mentioned earlier in the first race of the day is that Corentin Guinez, especially out here in the GT4, I believe he is out one of the few drivers, about half the grid in the Porsches. So that is one car that he knows like the back of his hand as well. He does a lot of these track guides to help learn the track. So definitely knows this car inside and out, what it's capable of, and it's showing so far out on the grid today. But like we've seen, Bruno De Carmo, Martin Chico also doing excellent in our race earlier today, doing well out here. So we have a lot of guys. It seems like really the first sector is where a lot of these guys have been most comfortable. I've seen a lot of purple on the timing through the first sector from a lot of these drivers. So definitely switching up back and forth between them, who's getting the fastest first sector. But right now, some of the guys still in the back of the pack. Pedro Muro able to go up now, making it into 7th place. We have Gaston Coulavi also looking to get up a little bit more. So 10 drivers on the grid and still less than a second separating all of them, with your top 6 drivers less than half a second separating them as well. So I expect it to be some very, very close door banging racing out here today.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned that most of these drivers are going to be faster on the first sector because of how much speed you carry through. When you're entering the start-finish straight, you're going through the 7th straight into Riches and Montreal. Those first 2 corners are going to be the biggest decider on how you manage to go through the rest of the lap. Because if you don't have a good exit out of turn 2, you're not going to have a good rest of the run. So definitely imperative that they get this first sector correct. But it's also important that they tighten it up near the last bit here because yes, the 200 layout is a pretty short layout considering we don't have the infield sections, and it's also quite fast. So you're going to have to be really careful and try not to scrub off too much speed because you need that as you're entering the 2 back straights.
And I've seen someone out there talking about the Mercedes AMG GT4. We'll have to see on that. That is definitely, you know what, for this track, I'm very curious of how this is going to play out for a lot of the guys because we've seen some of the Porsches right now being a very popular choice out here. I know that car is very well balanced in the Cayman GT4. So definitely a lot of the guys right there in the middle. That's kind of probably the safer choice. I'd say with the AMG GT4, on such a tight track like this, it's not really able to spread its legs just as much as if we were on something longer. Say like a couple of weeks back, we were on the Daytona road course. I know that's one place that some of these vehicles definitely have the advantage of. So, I mean, really between here too, big part of it, how comfortable are these guys as we see the SART drivers all in the matching liveries too, the turquoise and black in the AMG GT4s. So still all the vehicles very, very close together, but I think the Porsches and the rear engine vehicles might have just the slightest advantage here with so many turns on this configuration.
Yeah, I think the front engine cars are going to be a little bit hard pressed to find the speed they want out of the exits of some of these corners. Of course, the AMG GT and the Aston Martin Vantage are actually both sharing the same engine here, 4-liter V8. So they're going to be relatively equal and competitive, but I understand that the AMG GT might be a little bit leirier than the Astons here. So we're going to have to see whether or not these drivers will be able to keep under control. But all things considered, they're still pretty evenly matched, as you can see from the top 3 positions right now. As we're rounding up the end of qualifying, it is still going to be Corinthian Guinness holding on to that top spot with Bruno De Carmo behind him, with Monte Chico rounding out the top 3.
So there we go, folks. Qualifying is coming to an end, and it looks like Corinthian Guinness once again sitting atop the podium, right there in the first place position, the fastest driver out here today. So top 15 reverse grid. Now he's going to have to fight his way back through the pack. We've seen him do it earlier on today. We'll see if he's able to do it out here in the GT4 class as well. But there you go, your BenQ session winner out here for AMX race number 26, qualifying Corinthian Guinness with a 1 minute 12 second .889. So nearly 0.2 of a second between him and Bruno De Carmo in second. Coming in third, we got Martin Chico. Fourth, Ralph Benitez. Fifth place, Peter Zuba. Sixth, Josh Thompson. Seventh, Pedro Mora. Eighth, Evandro Dantas. Ninth place, Gaston Kulavi. And rounding it out in 10th place, we have Diego Villarreal. Like we said, just looking at all the times, still only about 0.8 of a second from the fastest to the slowest time out here today. That's how you know it's going to be a good one. Diego Villarreal now able to get back on pole with that reverse grid. We've seen him do an amazing job defending earlier on, so I think this is going to come down to which drivers are really comfortable on this layout of the track and which drivers are comfortable in the car they chose today.
Yeah, definitely. And Snetterton is not a circuit that we use very often, so definitely presenting its own set of challenges. In fact, we're actually going to be ending up doing the formation lap. You can see the safety car is on the grid here, so they'll have some time to warm up their tires, really get into position, and then once the lights go green, they're going to set off at full throttle.
So that too, the layout, we are at Snetterton in the UK, running the 200 layout configuration. So it's only about 2 miles long, so not the craziest of circuits out here. But there we can see Diego Villarreal sitting on pole position due to that top 15 reverse grid. Gaston Kulavi next to him. So we have right there the SART drivers out on the grid today, as well as the Delinta Esports. We have other people such as we seen earlier, SimRC, Team Redline. So these guys out here not only representing their countries, but representing their esports teams as well. Definitely should be interesting. We always say, you know, it's good to have your teammate out there on the grid with you, but sometimes whenever you're out there battling it back and forth, it can potentially lead, as we see the two SART drivers, the two different liveries, one of the few esports teams that we've seen very recently, kind of changing up their liveries just a little bit. But we'll have to see as we go. These drivers, a little bit of room behind them, trying to keep it safe, you know, not too much swerving around back and forth. That's one of these things that these brakes will catch up to you a lot faster than the power on the formation lap. So we've seen that a couple of times of a couple people brake checking, and unfortunately person behind them a little too close gets rear-ended. So hopefully these guys keep it clean. Lap 1, formation lap, as you can see them getting ready. So moments away from going green out here at Snetterton.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the teammates of the same esports team there, because we know that there are definitely benefits to having drivers from the same team, as you can help each other out in terms of battles here. As the drivers are now setting off, it is the green lights going off, and the launches are good from all of these drivers here. The AMG GTs are pulling ahead just slightly here. Diego Villarreal is still holding on to that position in the top 3 here. It looks like he'll be able to hold it just a little bit longer there. Doesn't look like there's any contest, but the Delinta racing teams are rounding out the back half of the pack. So far, so good. Clean one. Josh Thompson making the move on the inside here, trying to see if he can make it up a position. A little bit of contact going on there, but still managing to keep it clean. And it looks like so far everyone's playing nice.
So just like that. So like you see, the littlest bit of contacts, but that's enough. These cars can take it as long as we don't see these guys punching each other off. I mean, right here, the close starter. Ooh, right there, the move over Josh Thompson. We have Martin Chico doing an amazing pass right there. So definitely the middle of the pack. These guys the pro drivers, the ones that have been very fast, starting to make their way up through the pack. But we'll have to see, is Martin Chico now already up 4 positions over Josh Thompson. So like we said, we've seen Josh Thompson getting a little bit frustrated during the qualifying laps, trying to push it to the absolute limit, which is what you need to do on these cars, definitely in circuits like this, very tight, very, very narrow circuits. But we made it through lap 1 with no incidents. That in itself is a feat out here for AMX. So here we go, these guys, Diego Villarreal still holding on to that first place position, Gaston Kulavi in second, and Evandro Dantas in third, now going into lap number 2.
Yeah, and Diego can hold on to this lead and defend it as well as he did on the previous race. They're going to have a pretty happy time. But the battle we really have to pay attention to is, of course, the battle between SimRC and Team Redline here. Corentin Guinness is now right behind Josh Thompson. So we might see a little bit of a battle going on between these two drivers, and both of them going to be gunning for that top spot. We'll see here Martin Chico actually trying to make a move by Evandro Dantas as they're entering the next left-hander here. Evandro Dantas giving him a shot, telling him, I don't appreciate you passing me here, but Martin Chico says, what are you going to do about it? Nothing, as now Josh Thompson is taking advantage of it. Ooh, having try and make a dive early in. Wasn't close enough to actually make that pass happen though, but doesn't mean he's going to stop trying. In fact, he's going to try and narrow the gap a little bit more and see whether or not he can make a pass. It is very, very dangerous to end up going too wide here. You don't want to end up making a mistake that will cost both of you the race here. Here comes Josh Thompson looking for an opportunity to snake it past Evandro Dantas. Dantas is not giving him the opportunity, but how long can he defend it? Only time can tell, as the cars are now coming up to lap 3. Fastest laps coming out here. Martin Chico holding the fastest lap for the time being. And here comes Josh Thompson and Corentin Guinness both making it past Evandro Dantas with ease out of turn 1.
So beautiful move right there on the home stretches. Now Corentin Guinness making another pass over Josh Thompson. So like I said right here, definitely very, very comfortable. As you can see, Josh giving him the little bit of flash of the lights, just like, all right, man. I don't know if he's thinking he might have sent it just a bit too much, or just saying, all right, you know what, good move, but I'm coming back for that position. So now, we see in the top 3, the 3 SART esports drivers, followed by Corentin Guinness in 4th. So right now we have Corentin already up 6 positions, but he still has to get past Martin Chico, who's already up 5 positions from his start as well. So what we seen earlier was a Porsche domination, now falling back in the pack, and we have those Mercedes AMG GT4s leading the pack, the South American racing team going ahead. But like we've seen, Corentin Guinness definitely has the pace over everyone else if we're going off of what happened in qualifying. So now he's just going to have to look to make his move. And definitely here too, Josh Thompson and Corentin Guinness, both of them over 9,000 iRating drivers, as well as Peter Zuba. So we have some guys out here that have put in tons and tons of countless hours in the sim. But like we say, iRating isn't everything out here, especially when we throw in that top 15 reverse grid and a car track combination like this. As to the inside, we have the number 1 car right there of Peter Zuba diving to the inside, able to keep it clean just enough to get in there. So a little bit of contact to the inside, but luckily no one getting punted off the racetrack.
Yeah, definitely. Drivers have to watch out for spacing here. Again, as you mentioned before, not a lot of space for these cars, and these are pretty big cars. They're kind of pretty wide, so definitely you will feel squeezed in if you pull alongside one of the drivers. So if you want to make a pass, you gotta make it happen fast and clean. But of course, you don't really see how many a lot of opportunities to make that pass happens. In fact, probably most of what's going to happen is going to be after the start-finish straight into turn 1, because that's where people are going to be probably scrubbing up the most speeds if they're under pressure. And Corentin Guinness, credit to him, has already closed the gap between him and Diego Villarreal. I feel like it's only a matter of time before he actually makes the pass happen. The question is whether or not Josh Thompson can do the same as well.
And out here too, so on this track, there's not really that much elevation change going on. So that always also plays into it. As we see right there, a beautiful move. Corentin trying to get the inside over Diego Villarreal, but Diego Villarreal able to hold on to that, and that leaves room for Josh Thompson now to catch up just a bit. So they're going about side by side, and what we've seen, we mentioned earlier, Diego Villarreal, one of these drivers that we see here every single weekend. He's been here pretty much from the beginning of AMX, and he has been improving over and over. So able to hold off Corentin Guinez so far. We are lap 5 of 16 out here in heat number 1. We'll have to see if the SART drivers are able to keep it and if they can have a 1, 2, 3 across the board. Like we said, Corentin Guinez, Josh Thompson, 2 other professional sim racing drivers right on the heels of Villarreal.
Yeah, and that's one thing you really have to note about drivers that are all playing for the same team is that, yes, there are definitely advantages. You can help each other out in terms of drafting, in terms of defending, but if you end up getting too playful with them, you could end up in the spot of bother where all 3 of your cars get compromised, as we've seen before with Team Redline cars on the Oval a couple of weeks ago, where all 4 of these Team Redline drivers were kind of jostling with each other and ended up costing a lot of them the races here. But here comes Corentin Guinez trying to make a pass out to Villarreal again out of the chicane. He actually makes it through. Diego Villarreal tried to defend there but wasn't really able to hold it. In fact, letting the Caymans through both Josh Thompson and Corentin Guinez in front of him right now. So he's down to P5. The 2 top drivers here, the Frenchman and the Brit, are coming up into the podium spots.
So there we see beautiful move right there by both of them. Unfortunately, Villarreal just left the door open a little bit too much, and that let 2 drivers get by. So we'll have to see, as we have the 2 other SART drivers up from Martin Chico, Gaston Coulavi, but now Corentin Guinez is hunting them down, as well as Josh Thompson. So Josh Thompson not getting the best in qualifying like he may have wanted. There was a few laps that he was just pushing it to the absolute limit, but out here looks like he's finally settling into this GT4 car, and we'll have to see as he's chasing down Corentin Guinez for that podium position.
Yeah, you can see it here whether or not we have to check whether or not Corentin Guinez will be able to close the gap here. It is about 1.1 seconds behind between him and Gaston Coulavi. You remember Coulavi was the driver that stymied his Triple Crown attempt on the last race, so it looks like he might be on a little bit of a revenge drive here, and he wants to try and pull away from Josh Thompson as well. Josh Thompson still has Corentin Guinez's car square in his sights, so wherever Guinez goes, he's going to try and go as well.
As we can see there, Josh Thompson on camera, just the look of absolute concentration on his face as he's looking, trying to wait for these guys in front of him to make the littlest of mistakes. Well, he's also looking right now, not too worried about Diego Villarreal. He knows that he's finally starting to get a little bit more pace with every single lap that is going by. So Josh Thompson, the Team Redline driver, now currently sitting in 4th place. But there's a little bit of a gap between Corentin Guinez and Diego Villarreal. So we'll have to see as these guys start getting to the more technical part of the track, which ones are going to be able to hold that off, especially once we start getting towards the end of the race. There's going to be a little bit of tire fall off in these vehicles with just how much they are pushing it out here today.
Yeah, tire wear definitely will play a part a little bit. If you're stretching them too much early on, you probably won't have enough grip for the later stages of the race where people are making their final sprints here. But so far, Martin Chico and Gaston Coulavi doing each other favors and keeping them relatively spaced apart for the other drivers. But here it is, Corentin Guinez. Like I said, he was 1.1 seconds at the start of the last lap. He's now down to less than half a second. So he is charging forward, and it looks like it's a matter of time before he tries to make a move. Let's see if he can make it clean.
Right here, speaking of Martin Chico, there's been a lot of streams too that we see out there, having his family supporting them. Big shout out to them. It's a big shout out to everyone else. We've seen a few people out there with Josh Thompson on the comms with one of his teammates or one of his friends potentially. But nonetheless, everyone out there, week in, week out, we see you guys on the stream. We love you guys for showing up, as well as these drivers putting on some of the best racing and iRacing that there is out there in the world. So right now we are about halfway through lap 8 of 16. Martin Chico, Gaston Coulavi, and Corentin Guinez are your top running 3.
Yeah, Corentin Guinez now right on the bumper of Gaston Coulavi. Maybe he might try to make a move this lap. We don't know for sure yet, as now Diego Villarreal actually conceded another spot, this time to Ralph Benitez. He's now down to P6, so this defensive driving is really not paying dividends for him this time around. But as long as he holds on to this position, he'll still be in a relatively good spot, especially for next heat as well. As Guinez here is still trying to see if he can squeeze it past Gaston Coulavi here, looking for an opportunity. In fact, he's already cleared the distance between him and Josh Thompson. The draft here doing him a lot of favors as he tries to make a move, sends it on the inside and makes that pass happen on Gaston Coulavi. Coulavi didn't even see it coming here, And now there's only one car standing between Corentin Guinness and the race win.
So there we're seeing Corentin Guinness, just how comfortable he is out here in his Porsche GT4 Cup car. Not a Cup car, sorry, the GT4 Cayman car. But yeah, just right there too, making a beautiful move, but still right on the back of him, Gaston Coulavi. So Gaston Coulavi doing a great job out here so far. We'll see if he's able to get that pace back. But Martin Chico right now still holding him off. We can see the sector timing on the board just slightly a little bit better, but that is also due to those two drivers behind him trying to fight each other. So now we'll have to see a little bit of fresh air for Corentin Guinness, and still the fresh air for Martin Chico, who has been leading this race nearly the entire time, doing a great job. We had Diego Villarreal starting in pole position, but Martin Chico had just a little bit more place and able to concede that place, get up into first, and has been holding on to it ever since.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the deltas here. It looks like Corentin Guinness is actually just closing in the gap between him and Martin Chico, and Diego Villarreal again dropping another position, this time to Bruno de Carmo. So not a great race for him this time around, but Corentin Guinness again on the rear bumper of Martin Chico here. Might look to do the same thing that he actually did to Gaston Coulavi, in fact, probably even in the same very same corner. And you can see the time difference here. Look at how much time Corentin Guinness is actually making up on Martin Chico. That is definitely an immense amount of pressure that Chico must be feeling right now.
It's already just through, the first two sectors, Corentin Guinness already able to make up about 0.7 seconds over Martin Chico. And right there through sector 3, does look like Chico's just being a little bit more, just barely faster than him. But like we said, that time showing Corentin Guinness, I have a feeling that he very, very well have this one, as long as Martin Chico doesn't make any moves. But we've seen Corentin Guinness making some of the most beautiful passes out here in today's track. And you can see back there looming Josh Thompson as well, looking to get onto the podium. Gaston Coulavi trying to fend him off as well. But here we go, folks. Here is the run that Corentin's been looking for that first place position, making a move right here to the outside. And looks like we're going to go too wide out here to the outside, Corentin Guinness, and now back inside. He is able to get that place, able to get the over-under over Martin Chico. So that is your new leader, folks. Corentin Guinness currently sitting in first place as we're in lap 11 of 16 out here in heat number 1.
Oh, beautiful pass from Corentin Guinness. They're trying to force Chico to be in a more defensive position, so he has the outside line when it came to the start of that left-hander, but then switched it around to get the inside track. And then Martin Chico ended up not having the best exit because of the line he ended up taking. Seizing that opportunity, Corentin Guinness, now he just has to pull away from the pack.
So there we see Corentin Guinness having a little bit of fresh air. If he's able to keep this up, he definitely will be able to walk away. So we'll just have to wait and see, as Martin Chico now still fighting hard, letting him know, all right, you may have overtaken me, but I'm definitely doing whatever it takes to get back into that first place position. So we'll have to see, as now it is Corentin Guinness, Martin Chico, and Gaston Coulavi, your top 3. Josh Thompson now closing the gap between 3rd and 4th position. So Josh Thompson may also be getting on the podium here. He's going to have to fight his way over Gaston Coulavi. So we'll have to see if the start drivers now start looking back and say, okay, we're on podium contention right now. Maybe this is where we're going to try to do it. I know Martin Chico's still looking for the win, but Gaston Coulavi may more be focused on just holding off Josh Thompson here. So Josh Thompson, like we said, it seems like every single lap he's getting a little bit more comfortable as we go along. Lap 12 of 16 right now, so we're about 2/3 of the way through with this. We'll have to see if he's able to do it now. This point in the race, tire wear is starting to play a little bit of a factor. These guys not able to get quite the fastest laps that they have. And speaking of fastest lap, that is still held on by Corentin Guinness. So definitely showing amazing pace out here today.
Yeah, Guinness is actually just the star of the show for tonight. And Josh Thompson here making a move on the inside, sends it past Gaston Coulavi. Ooh, getting forced off there. The doors being closed on him, and immediately having to lose that position because he was forced off the track. Didn't lose too much time, however, and I think Gaston Coulavi is going to be feeling the pressure just a little bit here, but Ralph Benitez here seizing the opportunity, pulling alongside. Unfortunately, he's being boxed in, so he can't really make a move on either of these cars right now. And Josh Thompson there giving a little bit of a love tap to Kulhavi, telling him, yo, I'm here, you gotta let me through soon, otherwise I'm just gonna keep pressuring you and you're gonna end up making a mistake that will cost you the race, and I'll be fine here. Other than that, however, is Corrente Guinness is pulling away from Montechico here, and it really goes to show that, like, for this particular track, there are a couple of long sectors where draft is super important, but if you can force the driver to stay out of your draft and not be able to take advantage of it, you're in a pretty good spot. And we know for a fact that Corrente Guinness, especially in the slower sections where there's a lot of corners, he's definitely pulling ahead.
So right there we can see as we heading back sector 1, definitely Josh Thompson and Ralph Benitez have a little bit pace over Gaston Kulhavi. So we'll have to see, is Josh Thompson going to try and make the same move that he did earlier? He's right on the bumper. We've seen last lap just a little bit of contact between these drivers. I know Josh is going to remember that whenever he has to go into here. It seems like being in the draft, he will have just a little bit more pace, how close he is behind Gaston Kulhavi. So we'll have to see if he repays the favor. Like we said, just a little bit of bumping and grinding. These guys right here, door to door, fender to fender, and bumper to bumper. These guys, but that is what we expect out here in the GT4 racing. We have out here, we've seen it earlier in the TCR class, now we're seeing it in the GT4. These guys fighting tooth and nail for every single position that they can gain. So we still have a couple laps left out here. Josh Thompson still right on the rear bumper of Kulhavi, definitely just biding his time, waiting for the perfect opportunity to get up back onto the podium.
Yeah, but he's going to have to try and seize the opportunity as quickly as possible, because you don't have that much room left. You're on the penultimate lap right now. You've got about 2 minutes to try and make a move, and right, the gap that he has over Josh Thompson right now, I don't think Josh Thompson can really close the gap enough, because he is actually dropping a bit of time on the sector. So maybe it's that tire wear coming into effect. We'll have to wait and see. Josh Thompson immediately after sector 1 here on the long straight, the center straight, sorry, not the center straight, the other one, is trying to claw his way back, has the draft a little bit. Will he try and make a send?
And one of those things coming out onto some of these long straights, I mean, I think that's really what's going to be the determining factor out here. Even just 2 or 3 miles an hour faster coming out onto those long straights will make the world of difference. And I really think that's what we're seeing right now with Kulhavi, just able to get a couple miles per hour, just a few kilometers an hour coming out of those long sweeping turns that go right onto the straights. And that's kind of what's been holding off Josh Thompson for the last few laps. So we'll have to see right now as we are about to get onto the final lap here very, very soon. Josh Thompson is going to be now or never. The white flag comes out. So Josh Thompson right on the very rear bumper, trying to peek out a little bit. We'll see. We have the defensive line from Kulhavi. So Josh Thompson trying to go on the out now, getting back in. But unfortunately, like we said, that tire wear, these drivers just don't quite have that much grip to be able to take these outside lines at this point in the race.
Yeah, definitely have to be careful now. Oh, Josh Thompson, they're trying to see if he can squeeze in a little bit more on the exit. They're not able to make it just yet, but dropping it a lot of speed on the exit there is going to be detrimental to him. The gap is still relatively close, but now he has to utilize this draft to the maximum. And if you look at the front of the gap, the P1, the gap between him, Corrente Guinness, and Montechico is now over 2 seconds long. So you can see just how fast Guinness is on this track with this particular classic car, just pulling away from the rest of the competition right now. And this battle between Gaston Kulhavi and Josh Thompson is actually slowing them down to the point where Ralph Benitez and Bruno De Carmo are now close behind them, looking to see if they can make it a 4-way battle for P3 right now. Looks like that might not be the case because we're rapidly approaching the end of the lap. And here it is, Corrente Guinness flashing his lights, crossing the line. He's going to be super happy with that performance. Again, a race 1 victory, just like in the last race. Josh Thompson really unable to make anything happen past Gaston Kulhavi that has to settle for P4. Meanwhile, the rest of the drivers are crossing the gap now. Ralph Benitez and Bruno De Carmo 5th and 6th. Diego Villarreal holding on to that P7 position. Peter Zuba in 8th. Evandro Dantas and Pedro Moura will be rounding up the top 10.
So there we go, folks. Heat number 1 is in the bags, and it looks like it is once again Corentin Guinez up on top of that podium position, followed by Martin Chico in second, Gaston Kulavi in. So we had a great battle going on. We've seen Corentin Guinez doing everything that he could, showing these guys just how dominant he is out here in these GT4 cars, making his way all the way back from 10th place up into first, and as well, Josh Thompson showing with every single lap just getting a little bit faster, but unfortunately it came down to one turn there towards the end between him and the podium. But there we go, your BenQ session winner Corentin Guinez, as well as also of course setting the fastest lap time. Second place we got Martin Chico, third Gaston Kulavi, fourth place Josh Thompson, fifth Ralph Benitez, sixth Bruno De Carmo, seventh place Diego Villarreal, eighth Peter Zuba, ninth place Evandro Dantas, and in 10th we have Pedro Mora. So we'll have to see it last heat. So heat number 1, we went away lap 1 without any incidents. It took a while for these drivers, but then they started getting a little bit more comfortable, started getting the feel of the track. But here we go, folks, lining up for heat number 2. Formation lap going as we have just a couple more drivers getting ready to hit the grid.
Yeah, here we go. The formation lap is about to begin. And before we go on here, I just want to ask you, Kevin, because I wanted to ask this at the beginning. We just didn't find the time. What is your favorite GT4 car?
You know what? Honestly, anytime I race with friends, I'd say my go-to is always the Porsche GT4. I feel like it's just one of those, it's such a well-rounded car that nearly any track that you go on, you know that it's very, once you settle in, I feel like the biggest thing with that car though is you have to have the setup right. So that's probably the biggest thing. It's a make or break. I mean, in a lot of these cars, but especially with Porsches, with that engine sitting back there in the rear, you have to get that setup nailed in. Of course, out here in AMX, we do use fixed setups. That way we rely purely on driver skill. So trying to balance out the field as much as we can, making sure one of these drivers will not just outright have a much faster car than the rest. And so far, that has been leading to some of the best racing that we've seen.
Yeah, and bit of slowdown there. I wonder what happened. It feels like they're kind of brake checking them a little bit, but just want to make sure they're in the same positions as they are when they start the race here. Especially in these really tight sectors, you really don't want to end up going too wide because it could end up screwing the race for both of you. And here we go, as they're entering the center straight, it is green lights coming down, and drivers are off right now. You can see Pedro Mora is holding on to that P1 position. In fact, he pulled away quite quickly from the rest of the pack. But here comes the other drivers here. Looks like, again, another clean affair coming into heat 2. No particular incidents to really drive home about. But the most important thing is Josh Thompson immediately going in for the dive off the 2 cars, makes that pass happen, and Corentin Guinez is not that far behind him as well. So now Josh Thompson is in a relatively better position than he was compared to Guinez on the start of this race. Whether or not he'll be able to hold on to that is a different story entirely, as Diego Villarreal is holding up the rest of the pack right now. All the drivers are now making it past him. He's letting them through. Taking a bit of a slowdown there from him is going to be letting the other drivers through. And Corentin Guinez now in P8, actually making it up. Oh, that was a spin. Gaston Kulavi just went off.
Yeah, that's unfortunate right there. So we've seen Gaston Kulavi doing amazing in heat number 1, and just like that now sent all the way to the back. But back to where we're looking at Josh Thompson earlier, he came out swinging right out of the gate. He said, you know what, I'm not going to have what happened in heat number 1. I'm getting on that podium here in heat number 2. I'm headed for the win. So Josh Thompson immediately on lap number 1 being extremely aggressive, and so far it is paying off for him. So now that he's finally settled into this tracking car, he's going to do everything he has as he's looking to send it to the inside right now over Evandro Dantas, and it looks like he may have it going door to door right here. So definitely Josh Thompson saying, you know what, I am out here, I'm hungry for the win, I'm doing what it takes to get out there. And so far, as long as he can keep it clean, we may very well see another winner change up out here in heat number 2. So right now though, Pedro Mora, Peter Zuba, and Bruno De Carmo, 3 other amazing drivers sitting in those top 3 spots.
Yeah, you have to see how long it'll take. As Gaston Kulavi there, you can see what happened to him is that he got into a little bit of an incident with one of the Delinte cars and then just ended up off the track off his own accord. Ooh, bit of blocking there going on is Josh Thompson. trying to swerve it past Bruno De Carmo here. Actually, there might not be Bruno De Carmo. Yeah, it is actually. But they're contesting. Looks like Bruno De Carmo is still holding on to that position just yet. But this is a very, very tight left-hander after that winding hairpin. As they're entering into the back straight right now, Josh Thompson is breathing down the neck of Bruno De Carmo as they're entering the start-finish straight here. Will he be able to make it another attempt there? He's still stuck in P4, the same position he was in last heat. But here comes for the dive, and he looks like he made the pass clean, just coming in from one here.
And just like that, folks, Josh Thompson is now fighting for podium contention up in that third place position. So it looks like a shark in the water that has smelled blood. He has seen it, he has seen red, and he is definitely going all the way for that top spot. So we're already only lap 3 out of 16 into this, and Josh Thompson so far up 4 positions, just blazing away through here. But behind him we have Quentin Guinness already up 5 positions, so I expect to see an amazing battle go on between them later on during this race. The only driver that is holding that off right now, Bruno De Carmo. So Bruno De Carmo was up in podium contention, now dropping down into 4th place, and has another amazing driver of Quentin Guinness trying to hunt him down to get back up into that 1st place position as well. But right now here we have Pedro Mora and Peter Zuba right there. Ooh, door right there, Josh Thompson and Bruno De Carmo going a little bit too aggressive right there from Bruno De Carmo, now sending Josh Thompson off into the grass, so he's not going to be too happy about that. We'll have to see how he responds.
Yeah, that force off the track actually made sure that his exit speed in the corner was not going to be good enough for that straight. And then another Martin Chico, you're just taking advantage of the fact that he got a better run to just outgun him to the start of turn 1. But it looks like Josh Thompson's not giving up the position around the fight. Meanwhile, here comes Quentin Guinness. Oh, I think Pedro Mora just went off. I didn't see what happened there. He just spun off in the replay. We might get in the off camera, so we might see a replay just then. But Pedro Mora, off of a strong start on the first 3 laps, just ends up bottling it, and then suffering a little bit of suspension damage. I can see on his car right now, forced to the back of the pack, just in front of Gaston Kohapi. And Quentin Guinness now on the podium. Looks like he's going to try making it. Josh Thompson gets forced off, and now he's going to probably lose another position again. If he can hold off Evandro Dantas, he has to try and make this run salvageable, because now he's so far behind his competitor.
So just like that, we have a couple drivers now changing up the grid entirely, letting Peter Zuba able to lead the way. Now he may start walking away, as we have Bruno De Carmo in 2nd and Quentin Guinness in 3rd place. So what was going on, we did not expect that to happen, but these drivers, they are elbows out all the way now with several drivers. As we can see there, the incident with Pedro Mora, he goes into that corner and ooh, just looks right there. I'm not sure from this angle if there was a little bit of contact. There may have been just the slightest bit of contact onto that rear fender that then sends him spinning and leading Peter Zuba able to get into 1st place. Unfortunately, putting Pedro Mora now sitting in the pit. So it does look like he got significant damage from that, and that may very well be his heat number 2 in the bag.
Yeah, and again, we come back to the fact that these rear-wheel drive cars, as soon as something happens and that unsettles the balance of the cars, it's very, very difficult to recover, especially when you can't put your foot on the gas because you just end up spinning around instead. Quentin Guinness here, taking advantage of that, of course. Peter Zuba is ahead, not by much, however. Bruno De Carmo is less than a second behind him, and Quentin Guinness another half a second behind there as well. So, ooh, clipping the sausage curve there is Peter Zuba. Gone on 2 wheels there. He might end up scrubbing off more than he liked.
So seeing with some of the main contenders that were running for podium, now Quentin Guinness looks like he may very well have just enough left in his bag to get up into that P1 place, but we'll just have to wait and see. Quentin Guinness currently sitting in 3rd place, but now narrowing the gap between him and Bruno De Carmo in 2nd. So we'll have to see, as we have Peter Zuba now only less than half a second really between them. So it's currently a 3-way battle for 1st place pretty much going on, as we are only in lap number 6 of 16 out here today in heat number 2. Things have been heated up right out of the gate. We've seen Josh Thompson getting very aggressive, but then some of the other drivers also pushing back a little bit, having some drivers go off the road, some contact there. Pedro Mora unfortunately having to go to the pit. So it's been an eventful heat number 2 so far, and we're not even halfway through this race.
Yeah, Parente Guinness was denied the Triple Crown in race 27. Looks like he's going to try and go for it this time around. He's been dominating this entire race day. If he can close this one out, it's definitely going to be a big win for him. We're going to be walking away with a substantial amount of money. And looks like the only two obstacles in front of him is Bruno De Carmo and Peter Zuba. So he's very, very close to them. Definitely looks like he could probably make a pass within the next couple of laps. Bruno De Carmo actually setting the fastest lap here, immediately taken over by Martin Chico. And Corrente Guinness being dethroned here for the fastest lap means he doesn't get the full bonus if he does win. But again, we're less than halfway through the race. There's definitely a lot of things that can still happen in that meantime.
So here we see Peter Zuba so far doing a great job of holding off Bruno De Carmo. And as well, that's a position that's very hard to be in if you're Bruno De Carmo. You're trying to do everything you can to best Peter Zuba for first place, but he knows he has one of the fastest drivers out on the grid of Cortinguinez right there, slowly reeling him in right behind him. So we'll have to see. It's still early enough in this race. I think the strategy for Cortinguinez is just, let's see if I can force the driver in front of me to make a mistake and take advantage of that, be able to easily get into that second place position. So we'll have to see, though, as Bruno De Carmo is also an amazing defender out here, the Delinta Esports driver, one of the few out in the Aston Martin today. So we'll have to see exactly what happens as things continue to unfold. But looking at the timing screen as well, looks like Josh Thompson now sitting in 6th place. We have Ralph Benitez 5th, Martin Chico 4th place. So a few of those guys back in the middle of the pack too. We'll have to see if they can start closing the gap and get every single position that they can. So here we go, folks, about halfway through heat number 2, AMX 5, race 26. GT4 cars have been absolutely amazing all season, and they continue to be out here today.
Yeah, definitely. We always love to see GT4s and TCRs here, as Corrente Guinness is still trying to make a pass onto Bruno De Carmo, swerving a little bit defensive driving there from Bruno De Carmo in order to make sure that he dissuades Corrente Guinness from making a pass on him. Ooh, Peter Zuba kind of braked quite a bit too hard there as they're entering the S's. But looks like he's able to make a good exit there, get the run up on them. Not much time increase in terms of the gap, but here comes the pressure from Bruno De Carmo and Corrente Guinness behind him. Must be absolutely intense.
And looking at the overall standings, so Cortinguinez, he has had absolutely amazing races out here today. He is currently still 15th in the overall standings, so he hasn't raced too much with us this season, but the races that he has been on track, he's been absolutely dominant, and he's showing that again today. So we'll have to see if he can get the AMX Triple Crown. And whoa, like you said right there, these drivers starting to get a little bit more aggressive again. Oh, right there, Bruno De Carmo into the back of Peter Zuba, just absolutely shunting him.
Oh, no. Oh, damn, he just lost it a little bit there on the exit. Might have been shunted a little bit. Didn't really see any contact on the screen, but maybe the net code there probably forced a little bit of contact of him. Lost control of the car, managed to recover, but all of a sudden now, Corrente Guinness in his charge for the Triple Crown. Despair hits him there for being forced off the track, and Martin Chico is now taking advantage of it. He's jumped all the way up.
So just like that, with the drivers getting more aggressive, only halfway through this race, Josh Thompson now may very well be back in contention for the podium. So although that he got shunted off a little bit earlier, he is very, very aggressive, and we know he has a lot of pace out here. So Cortinguinez, Josh Thompson may very well be battling it out here very soon again, trying to get back into that podium spot. So right now it's Bruno De Carmo, Martin Chico, and Peter Zuba. Martin Chico falling back earlier on, but now getting back up. So a few stunts here and there. We'll have to see. Like I said, officially the racing stewards may have something to say about that later on. We'll see if anyone ends up with some post-race penalties, but for right now, things are absolutely heating up. We see some battles going on right now as well. Evandro Dantas trying to hold off Diego Villarreal back there in 6th place, but now the battle for 2nd place ensues. Martin Chico, Peter Zuba, as we are on the long back straight of the track. So we'll have to see, folks. Lap 10 of 16 out here in heat number 2. It is really anyone's game out here. I thought that Cortinguinez had a very good shot at getting that P1, but like we just seen, anything can happen out here on the track.
Yeah, and I feel like what I've said a couple of laps earlier might have actually come to fruition. I might have cursed him just a little bit there. Commentator's curse is real, ladies and gentlemen. Here, you can see picture in picture here as Bruno Ricamo shuts into the back of Peter Zuba. Okay, here comes Guinness. He tries to take advantage of that by cutting into Peter Zuba here. But watch as they're coming to the left-hander, actually getting hit a little bit there by Peter Zuba, trying to get his line back, getting forced off, and then rams into the side of Rafa Benitez here. So he might have suffered a little bit of suspension damage actually.
Yeah, and looking at it from that angle, it looks like that may have just been a little bit of netcode on there. I know those drivers were very close together, but Corentin Guinez looked like he has had it able to slot right in the middle of them. So just unfortunately, just that's one thing that's, you know, just sucks as a driver whenever you're that close and you see that right in front of you to be taken away by such a small incident like that. Especially one thing that does happen sometimes out here in iRacing, a lot of people call it the netcode glue. It's just sometimes even with the littlest bit of contact, it just absolutely glues your car to that other driver. Like we've seen there, Corentin Guinez gets sent off and now down currently into 5th place. So we'll see, he still has about 5 laps to go, if he's going to be able to make up any of those places. But Peter Zuba now still sitting in 3rd place, Martin Chico in 2nd, and Bruno De Carmo in 1st place.
Yeah, and if Josh Thompson makes it past Peter Zuba here and gets into the podium, he's going to be pretty happy with that result, getting to play a little bit of spoiler to Corentin Guinez's race for this Triple Crown there. Regardless, however, Guinez is still pretty much dominated this entire race day. And look at that, he's already taken back the title of the fastest lap here.
So just like that, like you see, Josh Thompson now sending it over Peter Zuba, but Peter Zuba able to hold on just barely, and no, it doesn't look like it. So they're going to go what could have been potentially another fatal incident right there on that turn. We've seen that turn has turned into the most dangerous part of the track out here in heat number 2. That's where a lot of the drivers have been having their incidents happen. As we see, ooh, beautiful shot right there. Corentin Guinez looking to make his move over Peter Zuba as well. So now it is Corentin Guinez trying to claw his way back to the podium, and now he's going to have to fight Josh Thompson if he wants to get on that step.
Yeah, a little bit of catharsis there is Corentin Guinez making it past Peter Zuba after that incident a couple of laps ago. Now it looks like he has to contend with Josh Thompson for that podium spot. 4 laps left to go here. The gap between the 4 drivers right now is quite substantial. Josh Thompson, the biggest one, about a second behind Martin Chico. So if they're playing it smart, Guinez and Thompson will be working together to see if they can close the gap before they actually try to make any big money moves. Meanwhile, Bruno De Carmo still holding on to that top spot with Martin Chico close behind him. And then we might look to see another battle happening near the tail end of the race.
So here we go, is Bruno De Carmo. He's going to have to try and get a bit of a gap if he wants to secure this 1st place position. We know once he starts battling it out with Martin Chico, he has 2 of the fastest drivers on the grid right behind him. So we still have just over 3 laps left to go in this one. But Josh Thompson, Corentin Guinez, now as aggressive as they are being, I think both of them want to get on the podium just as much as the other one. Corentin Guinez, of course, wanting to get those 3 wins in a row. We'll have to see what moves he's able to make over Josh Thompson. But these two absolutely professional sim racing drivers out here, folks. This is what it is all about. Josh Thompson now doing a beautiful job of defending off Corentin Guinez. So we'll have to see, again, about a second between Josh Thompson and Martin Chico. So with only a few laps left, it's really going to be up to the guys in 1st and 2nd. If they're going to battle it out, shunt each other off like we've seen earlier, or just make any mistakes. As we see now, Corentin Guinez looking for the move over Josh Thompson. He's going to dive going into turn 1, and he gets it. Beautiful pass right there.
Yeah, Josh Thompson's not going to be too happy with that. In fact, he's trying to see if he can come back around for the switchback. Not likely, however, as Corentin Guinez makes that pass super clean. So now 2 laps remain. In fact, the gap between these 2 drivers, despite the delta saying they're about a second behind, you can see on the track itself, on the camera in front of you, that the 1 second gap is really not a lot. So if Bruno De Carmo and Martin Chico end up contesting each other to the point where they slow both of them down too much, Corentin Guinez could actually seize the opportunity and try to go for another move. He just has to make sure it doesn't bite him in the butt again when it comes to moves like that, especially when he's trying to slot himself in between 2 cars.
So there you go. We see Josh Thompson now still in 4th place position. So Corentin Guinez sitting in that 3rd place. We are on lap 14, folks. Bruno De Carmo, Martin Chico, and Corentin Guinez, your top 3 in running order. So we'll see, as Bruno De Carmo's done a great job. We see Josh Thompson there in the back flashing his lights. So that too, we'll just have to see. I think right now it's up to the point of really just which drivers are the most consistent. These guys have been all blazing it out here. Of course, we have Corentin Guinez setting the fastest lap pretty much from qualifying all the way through till now. He's been the quickest driver out here today, but we'll see if he can narrow that down. It's still about 1 second between him and Martin Chico. So Martin Chico now starting to fall behind just slightly, but I think with the long straightaway we have on this track, that's really let that draft kind of close the gap here that we've seen. So we'll see if they can do it again as we are on the straightaway. Bruno De Carmo, Martin Chico, Corentin Guinez.
Yeah, this is way too close to call. We don't know what's going to happen until the 11th hour here. Maybe they end up wiping each other out. We don't know that for sure just yet. And I'm knocking on wood right now, making sure that it doesn't happen. I don't want to see any of these drivers end up like ended up in a fatal mistake that could cost him the entire race here. So keep it clean, keep it nice and tidy. How about that? You can see letting off the throttle a little bit. Put a couple of wheels on the grass there. Might be a bit dangerous in terms of grip levels. But Martin Chico still bringing down Bruno De Carmo's lag as we're entering the center straight for the final lap of the race. The white flags are down. If there's a move to be made, it has to be done right now.
So we'll see if Bruno De Carmo has one more lap to hold off Martin Chico if he's wanting to get on that top step. So we'll have to see if Martin Chico does any moves out here to try to absolutely send it. I know we see as well Corentin Guinez still in 3rd place. Folks, it isn't over till it's over. We've seen crazier things happen already today. So let's see if these drivers can keep it clean as these guys are flashing their lights, trying to do anything that they can. Intimidation factor, just trying to distract the driver in front of them a little bit. But now with this long stretch, we'll have to see. Is it 1, 2, 3, Bruno De Carmo, Martin Chico, Corentin Guinez? We'll have to see as long as no drivers make an error, but there Corentin Guinez is getting very, very close, so the pack is starting to bunch up just a little bit between these top 3 drivers. We'll have to see as we have about half a lap left to go. Bruno De Carmo may very well be walking out of here your winner. We will have to see moments away.
Here it comes. This is the final part of the track before they entering the center straight. And it looks like they're about to enter it right now. Bruno De Carmo held on all the way to the end, and a well-deserved race win for him. He actually manages to cross the line. Martin Chico in P2, Corentin Guinez in P3, unable to secure the Triple Crown yet again. But still, a dominating performance from him regardless. Josh Thompson finishing in P4, Pedro Zuba, Evandro Dantas, and Raf Benitez 5, 6, and 7. Diego Villarreal, Kulhavi, and Mura will be rounding up the top 10 here. As we can see, Pedro Mora is still a ways away from finishing his lap. So until that's over, it definitely was quite a spectacle to watch, especially near the end.
So there we go, folks. Like we said, a very, very interesting heat number 2. Things were definitely packed door to door, bumper to bumper the entire time. We had a few incidents that shook it back up. Josh Thompson getting sent almost all the way back to the grid, dropped several places, able to make it back up, but then he battled it out with Corentin Guinez, able to get back on that 3rd place. So unofficially, Corentin Guinez looks like is your overall race winner. But once again, I feel like our stewards are going to have quite a few things to review today. Definitely there was a few questionable passes. There was a few points where we've seen, especially from the likes of Pedro Zuba getting involved in an incident, Corentin Guinez getting spun out. So there was just a few places on there. I do not envy the jobs of our racing stewards when they have to make these decisions, but nonetheless, that's what we love to see out here. Close racing, these guys putting it all out on the line. And your BenQ session winner for heat number 2 is Bruno De Carmo, doing an amazing job, one of the best defenders out there today, followed by 2nd place Martin Chico, and 3rd Corentin Guinez, who also set the fastest lap out here, been blazing it all day long. Pedro Zuba in 4th, Evandro Dantas in 5th, Ralph Benitez 6th place, Diego Villarreal 7th place, Gaston Kulabi 8th, Josh Thompson 9th, and Pedro Mura rounding it out in 10th. We'll have to see what happened there, as Josh Thompson was in 4th earlier, and now it's showing on the timing screen in 9th place. So exactly like I said, we'll have to see just what happened. I know one thing that if you go off the track or start going in reverse, start doing some donuts, burnouts, anything, there's all kinds of things that the timing can say, you know what, getting a post-race penalty. So we will have to wait for the official results here momentarily. But once again, I think we're going to have to head over to the interview room here pretty soon, Damon.
Yeah, it looks like it. A couple of thoughts that we're going to have left before the race. We'll probably leave that until the end of the interview session, but we'll be right back in just a second.
So
okay.
There we have. So we're going to call up a couple of the drivers. So like you said, Corentin Guinez is one of those drivers that we've seen in race number 1. We've seen in race number 2 of the day. He almost had the triple crown in both of them, only to be bested on heat number 2, but he still ended up on the podium. So absolutely dominant out here today. We'll have to see what he says here coming up pretty soon. So like I said, but in the meantime, I mean, again, it never ceases to amaze me after every single race. I don't think it could get any better. And then we have days like today. So,
yeah,
I mean,
actually,
Damon, you know,
I think today. Oh, sorry about that. But yeah, I think today especially is probably one of the cleaner days we've had in AMX Global. I think, barring a few incidents, I think it's actually been pretty close racing without any major incidents.
and with that too, I mean, I think the GT4 cars, I've seen some people in chat too, you know, very excited about the GT4. I think compared to last season, now we had the TCR class last season and we've seen a lot more GT4 races now. We had feedback from some of the drivers towards the end of last season too, just saying, you know what, the GT4 cars, there's just such close racing, like things get so intense. So from a driver's perspective, as well as from the perspective of the fans watching at home, I think definitely GT4 has found a very comfortable place out here at AMX. But like we mentioned, we're going to head into the interview room and let's see what some of the drivers have to say about today's races.
Right, I am here with Corentin Guinez. Hello, how are you?
Hello.
Yeah, so great performance today from you. Almost getting the triple crown for both races actually. So very good performance. Without your main rivals here, did you ever feel like it was a difficult feat to achieve?
Yeah, I think it is because basically the TCR first race at Royal Atlanta, you have quite a lot of drafts, so it's pretty sort of easy to keep up if you manage to not being gapped too much during into the corner. So not so easy, to be honest, to make a gap. And then yeah, same for Snetterton, the second race with the GT4 it's difficult because you have a lot of quick corners, so it's difficult to really commit for like some overtakes, and then when you have at the same time you have very slow corners, so it's pretty much the same. You have to commit or just stay behind, because then if you make a late dive, then it can end up into a crash. But the pace was good, but at the same time you are never really confident to make it easy, because you have to make the wall grid again. I mean, getting the spots again. So yeah, it's never really easy. Even if you have the pace, you cannot really make sure all the time to make it back at the front.
Yeah, so interesting that you talked about the comparison between the two tracks that you raced today, because I wanted to ask you for the challenges you faced when driving the TCR and the GT4 class, because they're two very different classes cars. So like, what does it feel like? How different does it feel for both of them?
I think with the TCR, it's really important to be smooth on the different in-cabin throttle and the brakes at the same time. So you really have to make sure you can keep the tires right and not being too aggressive on them, otherwise you will overheat the tires and lose all the grip. Then for the GT4, I think you can push a bit more, but yeah, it's pretty much the same. When you really cross the line of pushing too much, then you will really lose the grip. So of course, you don't drive the same, because of course the TCR is it's front-wheel drive and the TCR is a rear-wheel drive. But at the end of the day, I think you really have to, on both cars, to really keep the tires into the window, and then you should be able to get good grip and keep good lap times.
Yeah. So talking about the Heat 2 race, where you ended up in a little bit of an incident that put you back quite a few spots. What was your mindset thinking about what happened during the incident, and how did you bounce back to make it all the way back to the podium?
Yeah, I was a bit angry because I think the few contacts could have been avoidable. But yeah, then I really hope that I had no damage because, to be honest, I got a big contact with another car, unfortunately for him. And then yeah, the tires were a bit off the window for like 1 or 2 laps, so I had to stay calm, keep the tires, get them back into the window, and then yeah, just try to push, try to make safe moves because of course the time was running little. So yeah, just try to calm down and then just try to make smart moves to not make any mistake.
Yeah, very detailed explanation. And thank you very much. Is there any message you want to say to the people that are watching, or to anyone that you want to say something to?
Yeah, thanks to the organization of the AMX, like always spot on. Great to have race like that with the heat. I think the format is really good. So yeah, big head up to them. And then yeah, for the drivers as well, we have most of the time very good fight. So you cannot have good fight without good drivers around you. So yeah, and to the people who are watching, of course, good to have some people watching the race. It's pretty good.
Thank you very much, Dinesh, and congratulations on a pretty dominating race.
Thank you, guys.
Here we are with our Heat 2 winner here, Bruno Del Carmo. Hi, how are you?
Hello, how's it going?
Alright, pretty good race on Heat 2 that I managed to hold on to the lead until the very end there. A little bit of contact with Peter Zuber. Can you just explain like what was really going on between the clash between you two near the latter half of the race?
Yeah. To be honest, not very happy with that win. That's not how I would like to get a win on this championship. It was totally a mistake by me. I ended up pushing Peter at the braking. In my defense, he kind of lost the corner on the first corner. He lost the apex, and I tried to go to the inside, and he blocked me, and then he chose the inside line, I think a bit too late, and then I lost the braking point totally. But yeah, not very happy with that one. I know I everyone that know me knows that I try to race clean every time, try to keep my line, and I'll totally I'm on that. Yeah, that was on my end, and I'm sorry to Peter, but pretty fun race. Yeah, as always, the championship is always good. We love to race here at AMX, and looking forward for the next one.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I'm pretty sure the production team will be really happy to hear that as well. I imagine that you probably weren't too satisfied with your performance on the first race tonight. So how did you bounce back and reset your mental for the second race?
Yeah, also at the first race we had some issues. We have some contacts. Some people are too aggressive, and I was just trying to survive because the pace was there. The team worked really hard. All the guys on our team practice a lot. We are really together on this one, and the pace was there, but definitely I got unlucky with some battles, but gotta keep straight, gotta keep your mind focused on the next corner, forget what is the past, and just keep going.
Yeah, also, I just wanted to pose this question to you because you took part in both races today. What would you say are the key differences between the TCR and the GT4 cars, as well as the track you were racing?
Yeah, totally different, right? I love Road Atlanta, and so for me, every car you pick at that track, it's fun. But it is really different. The TCR, it's totally different driving style. Not my favorite one. I also I totally prefer rear wheel drive. But yeah, it's a different technique. you gotta learn a lot. There's a lot of tips you have to learn and apply on that car. But it was super fun. It's always super fun here.
Okay, and before we wrap up this interview, is there anything you want to say to the people that are watching or to people that have been supporting you throughout this AMX journey?
Sure, I would like everyone to watch my stream at the Twitch, and also everyone that cheer here at the AMX. And thanks everyone for tuning, and let's keep racing.
Thank you very much, Bruno, and congratulations again on that Heat 2 win.
Thank you.
So there we have it, folks. Both of those drivers, very well spoken, and I seen chat was rolling along, just complimenting on their mustaches. So I know I have a long way to go for I want to get a mustache that good as well. But nonetheless, it was an amazing race out here in the GT4 class. Corentin Guinez, 2 races in a row today, just absolutely dominating out there. So we'll have to see what the results come in. I mean, pretty sure we all know it's going to be Corentin Guinez at the top once again, just from how amazing he was driving. Best in qualifying, won heat number 1, and got on the podium there again in heat number 2. So I love having these drivers in. Of course, we're missing a couple familiar faces out there today. The likes of Gael Valero, who is your current championship leader, as well as Jackson Asenje sitting in that second spot. So with those 2 gone today, that leaves plenty of room for Bruno De Carmo to start making up in the overall championship points. And we'll see, folks, as we're only barely halfway through this championship in season number 5. What will these drivers be able to do? So, like we said, man, that was great. I love hearing from those guys, especially Corentin and now Bruno De Carmo. Those guys, probably some of the most well-spoken. I love seeing the sportsmanship between these guys out here.
Yeah, definitely great to see, especially Bruno Carmo probably wasn't too happy even though he got the race win, because he wanted to win as cleanly as possible, which is a very respectable trait, especially with these drivers who are so familiar with one another. They trust in each other's capabilities, and when something goes wrong, it just kind of feels unfortunate for all the drivers. But regardless, you should take solace in the fact that he did win the heat, so it's definitely more money into his pocket. Should be happy with that result.
And speaking of results, like we said, here we go to see the unofficial official results. Like we said, there was a few incidences, so we'll have to see if these hold after. But big congratulations once again, Corentin Guinez out here, your overall race winner for race number 26 out here, and 25. Bruno De Carmo sitting in that second place position, and Martin Chico sitting on that third podium step. So as well as Ralph Benitez 4th, Peter Zuba 5th, Josh Thompson 6th, Gaston Calavi 7th, Evandro Dantas 8th, Diego Villarreal in 9th, and Pedro Mura rounding out in that 10th spot. So that is your overall top 10 for the second race of the day. Man, I know definitely we'll see how many more people that we get into these GT4 classes. The drivers love it. The fans love it. I love it up here in the booth. I know it's always going to be a great time. But nonetheless, thanks, folks, everyone, for sticking around, joining us. Make sure to follow all of our social media, as well as head over to amxrace.com anytime to get signed up to compete out in these races, or just to get the full schedule. We'll be back tomorrow for another Assetto Corsa Competizione race where our current leader has been dominating, Simon Seminaro. We'll see if he can do it again tomorrow as we head back to the Nürburgring, as well as the F3 cars will be battling it out tomorrow as well. So another great day of racing. We'll hope to see you all back there tomorrow.
See you soon.